these types of boxes, don't we? Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, everybody. How is it going? Are you here? Are you prepared for the biggest weekend in all of Warhammer history? Are you? Are you prepared? Because I'm not. How is it going, everyone? How y'all doing? You doing well? I hope you're all excited. I hope you're as excited as Games Workshop are to finally be releasing the squats, huh? Come on, how big is that? It's the biggest event in Warhammer history. An entire army line that has gotten erased from all of history, and anyone speaking out about squats was, you know, forcibly sent off to the Inquisitor's camps. But now, we've been re-educated. They're Leagues of Votan, so we've all been changed. We all have been here for a moment in time. I mean, I'm saying that these squats have been re-released, but it's not really much of a release yet, is it? Right now, it's only an army box the Leagues of Votan are being released in, which is kind of more like a half-life of a release, I think. More like a Ghoulan, like a Ghoulan of a release, like a ghostly kind of release, you know? You have to buy, what, 2 boxes of the Hearthkin, you have to pick up the new general, you've gotta pick up like the new lieutenant character, and a couple of hover bikes, and buy the codex, and buy the data cards. You get all of it together, and that's kind of a release, but you've just got to buy it all at once. And I don't know. Honestly, it doesn't feel like too many people are excited about it. Most of the the discourse, which is a fun word to say, certainly. I think you should all say it more often. Just throw miniatures behind it. One of the big things about the discourse around the Votan seems to be mostly about their power level, which is really interesting because the conversation was kicked off from a leak, which I think is a really interesting little wrinkle to all of this. Now, that's it. Like, I'm never one to be very doom and gloom about the balance of an army before it comes out, because I have witnessed many tears, I've witnessed many cries of Imba, Imba, before an army comes out, and it often turns into smoke. And then the armies that people don't expect being really good sometimes are really good. Now, that said, though, I have seen the rules of these grudge tokens that the Leagues of Votan are running about with, and they do look a bit absurd. They do look a little bit spooky. Alan Reed, thank you so much for the donation. How are you doing? Says, after 40 years in the 40k wilderness, the GW squats are back with a vengeance and are heading for the 40k equivalent of Jericho before liberating and or taking over the rest of the 40k galaxy. Smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. I like the smiley face. I think that was very imperative to your message. 100%. Thank you very much for the message, Alan. And thank you very much for the donation and the super chat. Yes, right? The 40k equivalent of Jericho. 40 years in the 40k world. Was it 40 years? So the squats are kind of an interesting thing. I wasn't really, like, I'll be honest, guys, I got a lot of nostalgia for Warhammer. It's kind of like a weird nostalgia, though, because I never felt like I ever left the setting. But then it turned out at one stage I did leave, and now I'm like nostalgia for the olden days. A lot of people sort of take these big, long breaks, and I've had breaks from Warhammer 40k where I've basically just not been playing. There was a while there where Batman the minigame was like everything, was all I played for like years. I think it was like, I couldn't even, to be honest, some of it was over the COVID years, which it was basically a blink of an eye for me, COVID. But yes, they are back now, and they were gone before I even started. Squats were always like a little memory for me. We're like a sort of like a shared cultural, oh, watch out, you might get squatted. Kind of like the Grinch, you know, kind of like the Warhammer 40k Grinchin'. Basically, if you all saw that recently the other day, someone hired a Grinch for their children's birthday party. Or I think we were doing a Christmas party, and he absolutely ruined the place. He absolutely ruined the place, which I thought was very good character acting, 100%. Hello there, Andre. Yes, Cream Soda Queen. You'll have to forgive me. I did eat an ice cream before coming on stream today, so I've got hyped. I've got appropriately hyped for the biggest weekend of Warhammer's history, and that's why I've brought some American cream soda from Maine. Since 1949, which is 30 years before Games Workshop, before Warhammer was invented. 79, was it, or 83? I can never remember. But certainly, it was after wargaming was invented. But that's another topic for another time. How are you doing, Andre? You having a good weekend? I sure hope so. Orc Inquisitor asks, how do these grudge things work? Okay, so, let's Let me do the due diligence thing, you know, instead of just screaming obscenities over the microphone. Let me actually explain. So the logs of the leagues. The Logue. Is there a word Logue? You have to, someone look that up for me. So the leagues of Votan are basically, they're the squats, right? They're like the space dwarfs. They're here, and they are, to be honest, they're mostly kind of dwarfs. They don't have a ton of personality. There's a lot less mining picks than I was expecting, though. I will say that much. So the Leagues of Votan, they're basically space dwarves. They are the new army. They are based kind of loosely, I would say, on the squats. I mean, they're being billed as the spiritual sequel to the squats. The squats were an old, ancient army in the olden days of Warhammer 40k, and they were, nobody, like, people liked them, but they didn't sell very well at the time. They had a bit of a goofy sort of aesthetic, and they were removed. And they were like the first, I think it left like this kind of cultural scar on the Warhammer 40k community. Like, if the squats could go, anybody could be next. This idea that if you can start getting rid of armies, then suddenly your collection is made utterly redundant. And it really did leave an absolutely... And I think it's the squats, by the way. I think it's the fact that the squats were removed, and it was incessantly talked about for like 20, 30, 40 years after they were removed, that makes Games Workshop very reluctant to get rid of Firstborn. Because they know how much it will hang over like a pall over the community. But now they're back, and Games Workshop were like, oh, Leagues of Votan. And I gotta say, for Games Workshop, there wasn't a lot of teasing of the Leagues of Votan. We saw what? We saw it was April, right, that they first talked about it. They showed it off on April Fools of all days, which was a little bit funny, I guess. Although it was very confusing. It only lasted for one day, though. It didn't feel like in the spirit of April Fools, I gotta say. Like, with spirit, I love a good April Fools. I know that April Fools has gotten a bad name in the last couple of years. People have been really hitting on April Fools. But if anyone who has watched my April Fool's video of this year, where I decided to turn the channel into a Fraser merchandise review channel. I'm a big fan. I spent a lot of money on that video. I'm a big fan of April Fools, and I was so up for a squat joke, you know. And some people got kind of a little bit upset about the squats kind of being teased, and they're like, "Oh, it's April Fools. It's not gonna come back." But then it did come back. It did come back, and I have ever since I saw the very first model, I have not been a fan of the new aesthetic. And I will say, I will caveat this because they changed the aesthetic. The old 90s version of the squats kind of looked a little bit goofy. These new versions look very... I mean, to be honest, they look to me very, I've spoken at length about the sort of, where I think the design influences and the inspiration for the designs have come from. But they look very 2022. I will say that very much. They look very video game, right? They look kind of like they've got these sort of proportions of an Overwatch character. It's kind of the vibe that I get from them, which isn't necessarily bad. It's not really to my tastes. I sort of got over, it's the old Blizzard games. Anyone remembers those guys? Those old school devs? You know, that company used to just release good games and make loads of money. Yeah, you don't really hear about those guys anymore, do you? The old Blizzard, I kind of got over that old Blizzard aesthetic, like back in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, whenever I played World of Warcraft, you know, the big shoulder pads, the ho-ho-ho. I kind of got over it a little bit, and I was never, like, super duper duper enamored. It wasn't, like, the art style that I absolutely loved. And there are companies out there these days that still are leaning into it. Broken Anvil, for example, they released a Rivenstone, which had a very big WoW aesthetic. There's another one, Bloodfields, as well, I think, has a little bit of that kind of old Blizzard energy with the big shoulder pads. Everything's kind of exaggerated. Weapons are bigger. And I think it looks good for models, right? This is where the heroic skill comes in. We're on like a kind of side topic here, but let's go. Let's just keep going. It's kind of like the Blizzard skilling, where you've got bigger hands, big massive hands, and sort of like bigger heads and stuff, because they're easier to paint. But when I say the Blizzard style for the Votan, what I really mean is they just have that kind of, that aesthetic. I'm trying to put my finger on it. So, in any case, Blizzard basically returned them. They returned the squats. And they returned them kind of changed. Like, they'd come out of the portal, you know, they'd been, like, teleported up to the ship, and they'd stepped outside, and there was something a little bit off with them. And they released in April, or they were announced in April. Then we saw a full unit, like we saw a full squad, and then there wasn't really a lot more since. Now, there's been, like, drip teased little units here and there. Like, here and there we were getting, like, here's a Okay. Firstly, you're gonna have to forgive me. You're gonna have to forgive me if I do not pronounce all of the Hearthkin, the Votan TM correct names. I'm just gonna say what they are based on the description, because to be honest, I did not really learn all their names. Like, I have read all the marketing for these things. It didn't drill in. It didn't drill in. I'm gonna be honest, guys. It did not drill in straight into my brain. And so they got kind of drip fed to us. We had like big guys in mech suits. We had guys with hammers. Classic, you know, like it's a space dwarf army. And cool, I guess, for people who really want the sort of the space army. But they felt very derivative. They felt very sort of like based on either the Terran or based on, there was like a space rock galaxy. Everybody keeps on saying mine and stone, rock and stone, which I think was a god. It was God, what do you call those guys? There was like they were Jesus, they were a big internet personality back in like 2012, right? They were huge back in the day. But they were kind of adjacent to like Jesse Cox and stuff like that, that type of community. But anyway. Lord Nova says StarCraft comparison is dead on. Yeah, I really do feel it. Like, I was actually playing some StarCraft 2 the other day. Don't ask me about my elo. And honestly, it is uncanny. It is genuinely uncanny. But it's kind of uncanny in the sense that almost everybody is going for this very similar aesthetic. It's a very easy, very classic sort of aesthetic for this space rough and tumble marine style. Because even Mantic Games has something very similar. Although the Mantic Games have taken more of a token-esque vibe to the sort of space dwarf aesthetic, to that look. So I don't know where we started on, because I always do that. I go on these tangents and then I kind of lose myself. But how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? But yeah, that's the leagues of Votan as it stands right now. Now, in terms of the mechanics, right? In terms of the mechanics, we have these grudge tokens. The grudge tokens. And these are like one of the things. This is like the main mechanic that I've kind of read about, because I'll be honest, I didn't read through the whole codex. The codex was leaked for the leagues of Votan. Good, in my opinion. Good, maybe we can have a conversation about that. But that was leaked. And people are like, oh my god, this is the most broken thing ever. Which kind of tells you something. In 2022, when people are like, this is the most broken codex in 2022. Come on, we've seen the Harlequins. Remember the Harlequins? We've got the Custodes. Like, come on. This has been a year of broken releases. This was like, I think this year or the year before was like the year where Games Workshop were like, mask off, motherfuckers! I heard you want to be competitive. Oh, best buy this big bundle. Yeah, so this, people are like looking at this codex going, oh my god, this is the most broken thing ever. And how they have this like army-wide kind of, I guess, army mechanic, right? Because Games Workshop loves to imbue every single army with its own bespoke little mechanics, which is fine. And as well as that, they like to bestow every single little sub-faction of that army with their own little bespoke mechanics, which is kind of fine, I guess. And also, of course, their hero units need to get sub-faction special rules and sub-faction special stratagems and sub-faction special inventories and magic items that you can buy from the store. And oh my god, it's too much. It's too much. Especially when the vast majority of the time that the actual little sub-faction mechanics result in you will hit a 0.5 times more often in a dice pool of 12 d6s. Aren't you glad that you've specialized into this sub-faction? No, I'm not, because you made me read like 3 pages to tell me this. God damn it, and I had to choose some pointless. Just let me paint my dudes the way I want to paint my dudes. Let me just paint them orange, okay? Well, actually, I wouldn't be allowed to paint them orange where I live. Anyway. Oh, no, Discourse goes political. Okay, so in any case, the grudge, so this is like an army-wide thing. This is not a sub-faction rule. This is like everybody gets this. They have these things called grudge tokens. Whenever you shoot at somebody, you give them a grudge token. Oh, you're going in the book, right? You're going in the book. And so they give you a grudge token. You get like 1 grudge token when you get shot at. And this means that anytime you're shot at, you acquire what, basically, like, if you get shot at, if like the okay, so if the Votan player now tries to shoot at you, and I think it's when you get shot at. I'm not actually 100% sure how you give out the grudge tokens, but it's not too hard. If the Votan player shoots at a unit with a grudge token, on a roll of 6 in there to hit, it's an auto wound. Okay? It's an auto wound. You just skip the roll to wound check altogether. And then it's just into armor saves. Now, If that unit who has a grudge token gets another grudge token, you're now at 2 grudge tokens. And that roll goes down to a 5+. On a 5+, you auto wound on your to hit rolls, okay? And then if you apply a 3rd grudge token, that unit is on a 4+ to auto wound. A 4+, which feels very good. And the Leagues of Votan run around with like a lot of AP, like a lot of armor penetration weapons, which is a ton of armor penetration. So this rightfully has Space Marine. Players afraid, like absolutely terrified. Their armor of contempt cannot withstand new technology. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I think part of the problem is the thing that terrifies people. People get terrified about this from the AdMech and from the Tau as well. People get terrified about this because shooting is a very uninteresting thing that happens on the board, right? Shooting is actually very uninteractive. What happens is, right, I'm here on my side of the board. You're there on your side. You're the Votan player, right? I'm like, I'm playing my fun little fluffy army. You've bought the Leagues of Votan army box from Games Workshop, TM, and now you're here to experience history as it stands. The first game that squats have been in over 40 years. And so now you've cracked out your Leagues of Votan. You're like 2 cookie cutter Hearthkitten squad that have been built exactly the way they're allowed to be built. And then your bikes, and then your cow, and you're shooting at me across the table. And say your shooting's incredible. And say I'm playing some rubbish faction like Imperial Guard. Anyway. Or Dark Eldar now, because we had our time in the sun where I was shunned. I wasn't allowed to be played with. Now people will play with me. They're like, oh, want to play some Dark Eldar? Not anymore, Ted. Not anymore. Anyway, actually I do. I actually kind of want to get my Dark Eldar on the table again. It's been a little bit of time. Anyway. So you fire at me, my Imperial Guard dudes. And they get blown off the table, right? It's like the first turn. I haven't even taken an action. I've sat down. I'm eating like a bowl of Weetabix. I'm like, I've deployed my army. Have you deployed yours? You're like, yeah, I deployed my army. I'm like, let's roll. Let's see who gets the win. So the first thing we do is we roll initiative. You win initiative. You're like, okay, my turn. I gotta move and do nothing. Okay, no, shooting. I'm going to shoot you. And you shoot me. And I go, oh boy, I sure accidentally left some of my units outside of cover without being kind of trying to hidden behind all the little blocks of flats that we've used, the little kind of covering or skewering terrain that we're using on the board to try and actually give some defense against this crazy amount of shooting. Uh-oh, I accidentally left one of my dudes exposed. So you open fire on it, and you blew away half of my army. They're just gone. They're wiped out in an instant. Absolutely terrible. I've lost half my army, and the only die I've rolled is that of initiative, and I accidentally rolled a 5 instead of a 6. Ugh, whoops, my bad. Outplayed, outskilled, and now you've shot my dudes off the table, and you're like, I'm not gonna assault. I live here. I'm a shooty army. I'm a really good shooty army, and it goes to me now, and it's my turn, and I'm like, right. Here's the situation as it stands. I have lost half my army. That's really bad. I will never be able to beat you in a shooting fight. That's really bad. You're on the opposite end of the table. That's really bad. And I guess I have to advance into your fire now. I have to put myself in bad positions in order to advance. I need to advance. I need to take the positions on the board in order to try and win the game. I need to get into melee with you because presumably I can beat you at melee, right? Because if I can't, that's like really bad. If I can't only not shoot you out, if I can't beat you in a shooting match, and then I can't beat you in melee because you're, say, I don't know, maybe you're really tough and you've got tons of armor, that's like really scary, right? And so I advance. I have to put myself in awkward positions. I have to make decisions. That's like a really big one. People love shooting armies because you don't really make a lot of decisions sometimes. You're like, oh, who am I going to focus on? I guess I'll focus on that guy. That guy's the most threat to me. And then you shoot it and kill it. Whereas I, as in an army that's trying to advance into this hail of gunfire, not only am I often starting from a position of weakness, but I'm also... I have to make decisions. I have to try and figure out where I'm actually going to move to, how I'm going to advance up the table, how do I minimize your damage, how do I stop the bleeding, and that's the game I'm playing, and it's not as fun. It's not as fun. It's funner when everyone's making decisions like that, and there's ways for us to accidentally trip up, but when you're up against a fully really incredible, like all-in on shooting army, you don't get to make that decision, which is why that time I played my Empire army and made my Bretonnian player cry, I felt really bad about it. I felt really bad about it because I built a gunline army that opened fire on my opponent, which consisted of a bunch of Bretonnian knights and Bretonnian peasants, and I devastated him in the first turn. And he was like, I'm never playing this game ever again. I'm never playing this game ever again. Why would I play this game ever again? And I said, you know what, dude? Based on that, I have no idea. I have no idea why you would ever stoop to play this game again. And he never did. He never did, actually. He never played a single game of Warhammer Fantasy ever since that time. Because it's not fun. And that's why, I think, people get really scared of very strong shooting armies. Because they're just not fun. It's not even about the balance a lot of the time. It's just they're not fun. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Outbought, says Jacob Bronsky. Yeah, right? Outbought. I'm afraid to say, I just bought the latest Games Workshop army. I guess I win. Which isn't, I mean, it's not a... Games Workshop, I think, even know that. Or at least the marketing team that they outsource their surveying to know that it's a perception in the community. And really, that's one of those things that the idea that the most recent thing that Games Workshop is selling is going to be more powerful than not, even if that wasn't true, that's good for Games Workshop. Because it means that there's this general perception in the community that that's the case. And yeah, sure, it kind of hurts its competitive viability. But it also means that people will be sort of incentivized to buy the newest thing, right? It's probably better than everything else. It's probably better than everything else. It's new. So not too bad. And it is true. I don't think you can look at the releases and say that it's not true. Zelark says, to be honest, we need a shoot back mechanic for 40k. Now that's really interesting because I played a little bit of Infinity a couple of weeks back. I played a little bit of Infinity, and anybody who knows Infinity knows that there's this thing called the reaction system, which was stolen by Games Workshop. Which is fine, actually. I think taking game mechanics from one game and inserting it into another is really good. It's really good, actually. I think that's good. You learn from what other people do. That's fine. You can't copyright game mechanics. Good stuff. Anyway, so yeah, it's in Horus Heresy. I don't know to what extent. I've never played a Horus Heresy game. I don't know a single person who plays Horus Heresy. I'm sorry. I understand that the internet loves Horus Heresy. I have never seen a Horus Heresy game get played. Anyway, I'm sorry. I live in Northern Ireland. Okay, we're all poor here. We can't afford it. We can't afford to buy in. All right, it's too expensive. Anyway, I'm waiting for Solar Auxilia is what I'm waiting for. Not in resin, because if it was in resin, I'd have to sell... I was gonna say my house. I don't... what could I sell? I could sell... I guess an organ of some kind. I guess some sort of kidney, an arm or limb or something, I suppose I could kind of sell. And then maybe then I'd be able to afford some resin models. But probably not, honestly. The price of those things are pretty crazy. Anyway. What was I saying? Come on, chat. You gotta help me out here. Yeah, 10th edition will be next year with a £200 launch box that sells out in a day. So it really will. It honest to God will. It will 100% be sold out, like, in... I think it's gonna do gangbusters. It's gonna do what they expected Dominion to do, right? Like Age of Sigmar Dominion, anyone remember that? How could you forget it? It's still looking at you forlornly from the shelves of every game store you pass by. Age of Sigmar Dominion, the big starter box for Age of Sigmar. Nobody wants to play with me. I think the 40k will sell out though. People just like 40k more, I think, as an IP. And the thing that sells Warhammer is not game design, it's not mechanics. You can have 1,000 people go blue in the face and say that they prefer Age of Sigmar to Warhammer 40k and maybe have a good point and talk about why it's a superior game, but it doesn't matter because everyone's playing 40k. It doesn't matter. Everyone wants to play 40k. That's where the IP, that's the stronger IP, and that's all that really matters. Games Workshop know that. You and I know that. We're all pretending that it matters about game design. We all know that it's just the IP. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Age of Sigmar could be the best, most incredible game in the world, but it's not. It's not the best, most incredible game in the world, because that's obviously Batman Miniatures game. And nobody's playing that game. Nobody cares about the Batman Minis game. You had Robert Pattinson walk out on stage in full makeup with his eyes all done up in mascara, look really sad at the audience and say, buy the Batman starter set for the Batman Minis game. And nobody cared. Nobody listened to that little twink. God, makes me sick. Anyway. To be honest, so before anyone starts like rushing out to buy the Batman starter set for the Batman Minis game, you should know that I would love to talk about the game more often, but night models make it impossible for me to recommend that game, really, like seriously, because they still have so much issues getting stock into people's hands. It's like the bare minimum. You know what, I criticize Games Workshop for a lot of stuff. One of the things I don't often criticize them for is their manufacturing capacity, is for their production of things. I mean, obviously, there is a big space there to talk about the best game ever, Cursed City. Not the best game ever, by the way. But we're gonna just set that aside. Apart from Cursed City and I guess malicious things like the Blackstone Fortress getting discontinued, right? Those kind of where there was actual decisions. Night models just actively are unable, it seems, to support a game. I'm sorry, I would love to say differently, but all I can see, that's the case. Although their new models look really good, and their miniatures are great. And I would argue their miniatures are better than Games Workshop's. Whenever people say Games Workshop make the greatest models in the world, I go, eh. Sure, they've got lots of detail, but I mean, they don't look as good as some Night Models minis. I think the Night Model minis look absolutely incredible. I think the sculpts in them are fantastic. Black Scorpion do incredible miniatures as well, and it's a taste thing ultimately. A lot of this whole like who makes the best miniatures thing, people are like, oh, but the fidelity on the Games Workshop material, who cares? It's actually about taste, and to me, I guess sliding very neatly straight back into the DMs of the Leagues of Votan. The Leagues of Votan are not like they're not to my taste, and by the way, that's fine. Like, that's fine. It's okay for things not to be to my subjective taste. If you enjoy Leagues of Votan, I think that's totally cool. Go for it. Although, I will say, I am very happy that the Leagues of Votan Army box does not appear to be selling well. And it's not because I'm, like, vindictive or, like, I kind of want to see the Leagues of Votan have failed. It's not like that. Like, I don't care about that, okay? I actually don't care about that at all. It's fine. Like, other people play armies that are not to my taste. Everybody loves Malifaux. I see you there. I see you there, Will Pan. Lies and Slander is Malifaux. Everybody loves Malifaux, but honestly, a lot of Malifaux isn't to my taste either. There's like some stuff that is, like the the Ortega gang. That's like, okay, Cowboy Girl, you got me. But apart from that, like a lot of Malifaux isn't to my taste, but that's fine. It's a game. It's not like I run around being like, haha, you bloody fools. You suck! Y'all suck! And smash the table and run out of the game store. Well, I don't do that because no one plays Malifaux. Oh, we burning some bridges tonight, everyone. I always wonder, like, why do I not get more sponsorships? Is it all of the bad dragon jokes? But I think it's mostly this. Anyway, that's all to taste. The reason why I'm happy that the army box does not seem to be selling well is because I absolutely detest this new style of release, and it's new. The Games Workshop sort of constructed, they created this style of release, this new product type, when the Sisters of Battle came back. I guess actually maybe Sisters of Battle are just as big as the Leagues of Votan coming back now that I think about it. Okay, the last like 20 minutes, last half hour of talking, ignore it. I forgot about the Sisters of Battle coming back, because you see, the Sisters of Battle never left. Not for me, not in my heart, not really. Anyway, this idea of the big bundle where you have to buy a certain type of army, and then you get a codex and like every data cards, but importantly, you get all this stuff like months in advance of everyone else. This, what I would call early access model, sucks. It sucks, and I'm glad that it does not seem to be succeeding, because they are relying, I think, on this concept of exclusivity, this concept of, oh, I'm the early adopter of this game. And that has a value to Games Workshop, right? They think that they can sell that idea. Though you would sell sort of maybe being first in a queue. You know what I mean? Everyone's talking about queues these days. First in a queue to get into like Disneyland. Do you know what I mean? And they think that there's an exclusivity to this. Or to be one of the first early adopters of a new games console of some kind. They're like, oh, what's in the box? You get to read the codex and see what's inside. You get to be the first person ever playing a Leagues of Votan. But the value isn't there. And you don't, I mean, to be honest, the Leagues of Votan box isn't that bad, but we're comparing it to the Black Templar Army box that came out last year that was the exact same type of product, but came with 13 miniatures. It was 13, right? It was 13. It was just too much. Farendale asks a very spicy question in chat. You don't think the Leagues of Votan is generic enough for Games Workshop not to chase 3D artists? Now that is going to be really interesting because they are very generic. And okay, right. There's like a couple of readings of this, right? So they create a very generic army. Thank you very much for the membership there, Scythen. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Says many players have 9th edition burnout. Anyway, I think you're totally right. I think there's so many people who are just over 9th edition right now, and people are just waiting for 10th edition and hoping that it will make it better, which is kind of sad in a way, right? Because it's like how many times we have to go through this so often. It was the same in 7th. It was kind of the same in 5th, if I remember correctly, back in the Matt Ward days. I kind of remember a lot of complaining about the rules and stuff. It's just over and over again. It's like these cycles of hatred, I think it should be called. That's what Warhammer should be called, cycles of hatred. But in any case, they're trying to sell this idea of exclusivity, and I'm just really happy that it doesn't seem to be working. I'm just really happy about that, and to be honest, that gives me joy. But you don't think like Leagues of Votan is generic enough for Games Workshop not to chase 3D artists? So there's like 2 ways you can take this, right? You can take it like the first way, which I think is let's go for the more conspiratorial, less reasonable way. Let's go for the way that like the kind of like loony, kind of like we've stuck the tinfoil on our head, our eyes are sort of wagging around, you know, and we're looking to the stars and going, oh, stars have started disappearing in the night. It's because of 4G. So have Games Workshop created a very generic looking army in order to then at a later stage say you're copying our designs, right? Because it's like paneling. They're very like just very basic super soldier kind of dudes, you know? They kind of got like beards and stuff, but they're not overtly dwarf, so it means that they could catch, in theory, a ton of stuff. And the answer to this mad sort of like speculation is probably not, to be honest. I don't think so. I don't think Games Workshop are like, I don't think they're like a super villain company, right? Like, I don't think that they're run by Skeletor. I don't think that they actively are genuinely trying to like send out like Black Hawk helicopters in order to find 3D printers and break into their homes and like smash them and put like dead like horse heads beside them in bed. So whenever you wake up, you go, oh my god, 3D printed horse heads as well in order to scar people from 3D print. Like, oh god, I can't 3D print ever again. It reminds me of that time Games Workshop came around, right? I don't think that that's happening. I don't think they're going to do that, because what would happen is if they ever tried to sort of say, aha, you copied our copyright of the generic dwarf man, what would likely happen is that a court would look and see the timeline, and if your thing was made first, they'd be like, no, actually, those copyrights are yours. And actually, Games Workshop, if you think that the copyright is so close and this person made theirs first, well then, I mean, hold up. Let's talk about copyright claims infringements, right? Like, where did you get the idea? So I don't think the Games Workshop would ever really be interested in that. No, it does cast like a wide net, because it is a very basic design. But the more basic it is, the more generic it is, the harder it is to sort of enforce. You know what I mean? So I actually think that maybe they've strayed a little bit too generic with this one. That actually, I think you'll see probably a lot of stuff that's like Votan compatible. And it's interesting, actually, because this actually, we're kind of stepping on the toes here of giants. We're kind of stepping on the juice of giants. So those with the giantess fetish, like, welcome to the stream. But to be honest, it reminds me a lot of the Chapter House trial, right? That's the giant we're talking about here. We're talking about the Chapter House trial, which really did, one of the big things it was focusing on were kind of topics like these. Dingo Dundee, thank you very much for the donation there. I really appreciate that. It really does help out. It was always the hot girls in bikinis and free cappuccinos that got me into GW, not the overpriced minis or changes to the rules every week. I mean, that does help, right? That does help. It's all the hot tub streams with people painting Warhammer. That's the thing, right? That's the thing. But thank you very much for the donation. It really does help out, guys. I do this all full time now, so it's relying on crowdfunded stuff from you guys. That helps the channel go TikTok, I guess. Thank you very much. No New News says, He-Man Warhammer? Well, it does exist, right? It does exist. There is that game from... Oh, God. I've forgotten the name of the company, but there is a He-Man miniature wargame, and the name of the company kind of escapes me right now. It escapes me right now. Amit says, wait a minute, Skeletor is the bad guy? And, I mean, you know, if you want to believe the man, I guess he sort of is. Be a lot cooler if they were run by Skeletor, to be honest, says Mike. I agree. I do think that Games Workshop would be more cool if they were actively run by Skeletor. I think that there should be more cackles, honestly, from, like, announcements from Games Workshop. More cackling, more twirling of mustache. I think they should just lean into it. They should just be like, the villain, just go for it. They're like, we're the big bad. Nobody can stop us now. Because as it is right now, a lot of these companies are making, like, I'd say, like, Hasbro is very similar. They're making decisions that are basically the decisions of Skeletor, but they don't have any of the charm. They don't have any of the charm or charisma. You know, they got none of the gimmicks, none of the theme, and that's kind of a disappointment to me. Archon Studios says Mike. Thank you very much, Mike. Yes, Archon Studios. They created the He-Man game, and from what I've heard, I don't know how good it is, because the only thing people have been talking about is the IP. No one's been talking about the gameplay, which is kind of sad, actually. Which is really interesting, because we're sort of at the other end now. I think that big IP is still really big. Like big IP is massive, and I think it definitely sells systems. But on the other hand, I think art just generally sells systems. I think you can get people to buy into fresh new IPs. It's just the tabletop hobby has such a huge buy-in to buy into new games. That's really tough. Now, where Leagues of Votan might be really interesting for those who are maybe not as interested in Warhammer or interested in other elements of wargaming, could be in what I'm beginning to think of as the triumvirate of sci-fi gaming. You have Stargrave, 5 parsecs from home, Space Station Zero, right? These kind of more generic miniatures that Games Workshop are coming out that for the Votan are kind of perfect for a lot of those games. And that is why I've heard, I think this is why Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions is really liking these new Leagues of Votan models. From what I understand, I mean, he's quite excited for the fact that they are pretty generic, because what that means is, I mean, he's kind of biased, right? Because he obviously created Space Station Zero, which is a sci-fi miniatures agnostic game. He created that with Vince Ventrilla. So he's kind of biased, because more generic sci-fi miniatures means that the miniature range for his game has expanded. But they've expanded for 5 parsecs from home and for Stargrave as well. And if anyone who's seen my latest community post, I posted up a picture of my Stargrave miniatures, then they know that actually I've been kind of dipping my toes in here as well. Now, I quite like there is a Stargrave box that is sold by North Star Wargaming, and they're sort of partnered with Osprey. They're kind of like the official minis, but they're just sci-fi agnostic miniatures. You know what I mean? And agnostic miniature war games can kind of be tough to get into for somebody, because there's not like an official sort of string of miniatures to buy. Like, as someone who was getting into 5 parsecs from home, I was like, well, what minis am I gonna pick? And I've got a big collection of minis. Now, admittedly, most of them are in storage at the minute, but I've got like a huge selection of miniatures to choose from. And even I was like, which ones could kind of represent this alien? Which one could kind of have this kind of weapon? Like, this character has a laser handgun. Do I have anybody that could kind of fit that? And I want to make sure the scales are all correct. They're not kind of like one's bigger, one's smaller, you know, stuff like that, right? Stuff like that. And so that's kind of tough. So to have a sort of a miniature range and go, these are the miniatures that I'm going to use for this game, is really useful. It's really useful. I was actually tempted to use my lunar miniatures, just have a bunch of NASA astronauts and be like, yeah, these guys are like from Earth, and they've just gone through like a wormhole, and now they're like in 5 parsecs from home. I thought that could have been fun. I thought that could have been fun. Soviet Bear, thank you very much for the donation with the money for the Buy Discourse New Equipment Fund. Thank you, I do really appreciate that. I do need to buy a bunch of new equipment, including, actually, I bought just a new device that will help me with my script rating the other day, but I'm saving up for a CPU. So thank you very much for that, Soviet Bear. I do really appreciate that. Colin says, I want to buy my own Robo Discourse. I can't believe this thing. It's goddamn, this robot voice that occasionally creeps in. Is basically becoming the thing that I'm most well known for. My equipment failures. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have indeed made it. Buy a new CPU. All right, it's been months since Stu, right? Dude, you say that, but like, CPUs are expensive. CPUs are really expensive, and I can't really afford like the outlay. I can't afford just to drop a bunch of money on CPUs, unfortunately. Which is also why I haven't been buying much Games Workshop stuff, because I can't really afford to just like drop the money on Games Workshop stuff at all. So bummer. 1 second though, guys. I gotta take my sponsored main cream soda break. Boy, I sure love my sharing size, mean since 1949, American cream soda. All the taste of the Yankee Doodle, but right in your living room. Buy the Mean cream soda from all good retailers. Mean, whatever your full company name is, Mean, this could be, like, you could be paying me for this. So why would they pay me if I'm doing it already? Okay, right, new plan. I'm not going to advertise Mean until they pay me money. Right, that's my new plan. All right, this is a better plan, I think. I like this new plan. Stargrave is bloody great, says Jazz. McCullough is a top lad. Stargrave, I haven't played it yet. I've built my crew. I am prepared to venture into space, but I haven't played it yet. And I'm actually going to probably start off with the, oh god, their new game. Hold on. What is it? It's called, like, I want to say Raising Hope. But I know that's, no, that's me thinking of Raising Arizona. Let's see, what is it called? Come here. Hope Eternal, that's it. So they did kindly send this out to me. I did not buy this, I did not pay money for this. They sent it out to me, and so therefore, you know, how can you trust my smooth tongue about anything about this game? But it does look interesting. It's a solo, cooperative, sort of game, war game where you're playing against NPCs and stuff. That's kind of my jam, I'll be honest. I've been wargaming for so long, I'm kind of like out the other end. I'm like, can't be bothered with this fighting people on a battlefield anymore. So, that's like a super narrative game. I haven't played it yet. It looks interesting, though. That's probably going to be my first experience with Stargrave, to be honest. Because it's just easy for me. Like, as someone who is really busy all the time, it's really nice sometimes to be like, okay, right, it's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. I have an hour. Can I get a game in? It's really hard sometimes for me to find games. So being able to play by myself is very good. I like to play with myself for sure, 100%. Diego Flores, thank you very much for the donation. Says, saw you 5 other War Games video. War Surge bought me, trying to convert my friends to play it. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Diego. I'm glad you enjoyed that, and I'm glad you liked it. War Surge is a bloody good game that has not gotten any recognition at whatsoever. If you're someone out there, you got Warhammer miniatures, you're like, I don't want to play 9th edition anymore. I want to play a different game. War Surge deserves your time. If you have a big collection of miniatures at all, or if you just like are interested in various different ranges, and you're like, I don't know what game I'd play those in. You know, you're seeing these pirate minis, and you're like, damn, those pirate minis look really cool. But I have nobody around who wants to play pirate minis. Get them to play War Surge. Be like, you can bring your fucking Space Marines, I'll play my pirates, and we'll balance them against one another. How awesome is that? How cool is that? How cool is that? Bruva says, sponsored by Raid Shadow People. Raid Shadow People. This stream sponsored by Shadow People. They're always watching. Hey, you know, if the Shadow People want to pay me, I'd rather be on their side than not. Right? The Shadow People will get you. Thank you very much for the donation, Jacobachi. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I have no strong thoughts on the subject. I'm just here for the ride. Some cash for the Cream Soda Fund. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I really do really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yes, so I think actually, this is actually really the really interesting part to me. I think that a ton of people don't really have a huge amount of opinions on the Votan, and that is exactly my point, right? I think that Warhammer, one of the things about Warhammer is that it is so distinctive. It is a world unto itself. It is so specific. Like, even Space Marines. I mean, less so now. It's kind of like a problem with the Primaris, is that they feel very generic almost. The Primaris, but they're still, at their core, Space Marines. And if you look at the older Space Marines, like, they had stuff going on. Like, they were all kind of a little bit mad. They had all sorts of detailing. They were knights. They were space knights. That was cool. It was kind of unique. Because they weren't like big mechas. They were like dudes in armor and had like crazy detailing and chapter houses, and they had swords. That was kind of funky. You look at the Inquisitors. They don't look like just kind of government spooks. They look wild, basically. They look like witch hunters from the 17th century, but transposed onto a sci-fi context. And that personality, as it has grown to become specific to the Imperium, I think that other factions have still been able to make the feel sort of relatively unique. I think maybe orcs are like one of the few where I'm like, I don't really get it. Like, I don't know what they're kind of going for. But the fact that they're orcs is kind of novel, you know? But even like the Eldar, the Dark Eldar, they have like very specific looks to them. They're very distinctive models, and they look very much like they come from the world of Warhammer. With the likes of Votan, I don't really. And I feel like if they had have gone for more of a vibe on Votan, we might have seen more people who are showing up basically being like, I have an opinion on Votan. But I don't think that many people do have an opinion on Votan. And that 100% I think will hurt sales for Games Workshop. I do think. I think that they're kind of a little bit of a failure of design. If you are right? I'm not saying objectively. I'm saying if you are someone who was hoping for extremely distinctive models from Games Workshop, I think that they are a little bit of a failure of design. But on the other hand, will any new army actually get sales if it's not a Space Marine army? Because let's think about this. Is Warhammer the game Warhammer 40k the setting, or is it the I want to play a Space Marine simulator? Because Dark Heresy seems to be doing well. The internet's telling me that. But that game is just I want to play the Space Marines. And it's just like, it's like mask off Warhammer. It's like, okay, let's just admit it. We're just gonna be Space Marines. We're gonna be fighting other Space Marines. I mean, that is basically 40k already. Let's just go all in. Let's just go all in on this. And so was Votan, is the point to them to look as much like Space Marines while not looking like Space Marines, to be Space Marines and appeal to that Space Marine thing. Like, they're still not, Games Workshop still aren't sure what it is about Space Marines that people really enjoy. Because they tried it with the Sigmarines, with the, oh, they're gold! This is how I play as a Sigmar. They're gold. They've got the Stormcast Eternals. In my mind, I think of them as Sigmarines. That's like the first word that comes through. I'm not being pejorative here. It's just like literally that is what I think of, and I don't think that they ever cracked it either. Because as far as I'm aware, the High Elves equivalent are the most popular army in Age of Sigmar, which is kind of wild. It's kind of wild, right? It's not the big guy in armor. So there's something about Space Marines that is particularly gripping and grabbing on Warhammer players, on people who like Warhammer. Honestly, I think it's mostly a power fantasy thing. But there's definitely something about the aesthetic of it that, I don't know, just appeals to a certain demographic. Tapio says, I too like to play with myself. Oh, winky, winky. Well, thank you very much, Tapio. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you very much for the donation. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Get the hype going. Rock on Stone says type here. That is exactly what it was. Rock on Stone. Sorry, I'm not in with the youth enough. The youth of 15 years ago. So, not really the youth anymore. just the contemporaries. Kai Elves, says Ariel. Kai Elves? My god. I mean, that's good game design right there. Kai Elves. Yeah, 100%. Just jam two words together, see what you get. Amit says, Space Knights who would strut around polishing their space helmet. Well, exactly, right? Exactly. Howdy, or an M. How is it going? Mike says, Space Marines are bad on the table. What if we made them a little shorter and much better on the table? Definitely. I mean, like, look, and this comes on the back of some really cool looking models. I really love the AdMech. As much as whenever I saw them, I was like, I don't know. Do we really need the AdMech? Like, do we need the AdMech? I've kind of been resistant to every single new army that gets added into this game, because I already feel like there's so many goddamn armies already. But they keep getting added in. And the ones that I've enjoyed, the Gene Stealer Cultists, I kind of like the AdMech. Those ones I'm like, okay, I begrudgingly accepted them into my heart. And the Gene Stealer Cult, I actually have a Gene Stealer Cult army. I actually started collecting Gene Stealer Cults, which is kind of wild, but they're just too good not to. Like, I really like their design. That, like, really touches a little funny bone somewhere in my brain. It's like the missing jigsaw piece. I put it in, was like, whoa, I'm old now. So that was pretty cool. But the Custodes, I did not care for the Custodes. But I'm someone who doesn't like Space Marines, really. I don't play Space Marines. I've never really had an interest. I had an interest in Space Marines for like a month, and then I kind of went over it. Although every so often, I tell you what, okay, do you guys want to know? Do you want to know my darkest secret? Who wants to know my darkest, deepest, most frightful secret? The secret that I have not shared with anyone. I will share it tonight, exclusively with you on this most auspicious of weekends. The biggest weekend of Warhammer ever. I will share you my deepest, darkest secret. I will indeed. I'll share it. So, Okay, I'm kind of nervous now. I'm sweating a little bit. Okay. I don't know when I should share this. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Every so often, I will log on to the many websites, many hobby websites that continue to contain the Black Templar army box, because let's be honest, nobody bought them. There are thousands of them out there just still in the ether. Nobody cares about it. I look at them sometimes and I go, you know, there is a price where this becomes a reasonable purchase. And I'm watching it. One day, I look at them and I go, the Black Templars are kind of cool, actually, aren't they? They're kind of a little bit cool. I mean, if I were to collect the Space Marine chapter, you know, it might be the Black Templars. It might just be. And, I'm waiting. If the price ever drops low enough, I might dip my toe in some Space Marines. I might do it. That is my deepest, darkest, desperate secret. I've never shared it with a living soul. It's only remained inside my heart of hearts, locked away between many chambers, and I've revealed it now to you today. I am ashamed. I am but human. Perlatoni says, I got the Black Templar box for $90. I think that's still a little bit too rich for my blood. Look, okay, here's the thing, right? I really like the 3rd edition art. I really like the Warhammer 3rd edition art, and having that on, like, a book, like the Codex, it's kind of cool. I actually think that's kind of neat. I like that little note. That's like, kind of dipping into the nostalgia bubble for me. That's, like, where it's starting to get in, right? But the price that it came out with, for 13 models, was, like, 130. No, but the price keeps dropping and I'm waiting for it to drop more. If it, like, comes down to, like, geez, I don't know. I actually don't even know what the proper price point was. I haven't actually thought about it that much. This is more like a sort of, like, late night, you know, you come home drunk, you're like, oh no. You open your phone and you're like, I can't. You start to get that nervous sweat going. There's a lump in your throat and you go on to, like, Hobby Workshop. And then you log on to your account where your credit card details are. And you look at the price and your hand hovers over it. And you stop yourself. You go, no, what will the neighbors think? What will people say about me? I'll be ill spoken of in the village. No. And you cry, and you don't do it, and then you wake up in the morning, or you do order it, and you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my god, what have I done? And you quickly scrabble to try and cancel the damage that was dealt that night before. Yes, that is me and the Black Templar army box, ladies and gentlemen. I am afraid and ashamed to admit it. There you go, you have it. I have laid bare all my sins. I am afraid to say. But I don't get a similar feeling from the Leagues of Votan. The Leagues of Votan box is a little bit better. It's like 25 minis. It's a little bit better. But I am so glad that the early access model does not seem to be able to push, which I think is what their plan is. They're trying to push models. They're trying to push bad value box sets. You know, in order to, because they believe that there's value in the sort of early access and the kind of collector's edition, because collectability is a huge thing in this hobby. It's a massive thing. I mean, half the hobby runs on it. Games Workshop love to take advantage of it. They love to take advantage. Ever since the battle boxes, right? Battle boxes are designed to get you into 2 armies. I know they say that they're for, like, splitting with friends, and people kind of like this common consensus in the community that it's all for splitting with friends. Not really. It's so you buy a box, you get 2 armies. Now you're collecting 2 armies, right? You're not going to just leave it uncollected, are you? You're not going to just leave it as just like a little bit of a force, are you? No, you're not. By the way, we were talking earlier about, like, all the new armies the Games Workshop have been bringing out, and Leagues of Votan are the next one in lockstep. Everyone knows why the Leagues of Votan were made, right? Everybody knows why the Leagues of Votan were made, don't they? Right? Everybody knows. Amit says, you know what they say, once you go Black Templar, you realize too late that you should have played Space Wolves. I think that's kind of maybe appropriate. I don't like the wolf iconography. I know y'all claim that you've got the Viking iconography. That's not true anymore. Now you're wolf people. Now you're the furry faction, and I'm afraid to say I'm not in, because I'm trying to hide some certain facts about myself. George Atkins says the Votan box set is the Battle Force box set with an added book. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is, basically. It's kind of like a Battle Force box set, but it's a very sad kind of Battle Force. It's not like the most interesting one. Sethon says, well, at least your longies are not with Primaris. You will therefore be forgiving. It's not what Primaris. Primaris don't really interest me. The thing I like about the Primaris is that they're kind of like they're higher fidelity models, I guess, and they do look less squat. They do look less squat, but I don't like the style of the Primaris. It's primarily so the thing I like about Black Templar is that they're mad. That's what I dig, right? So I think what I like about Primaris, like not the Primaris. Jesus, you almost caught me on video saying I like Primaris. The thing that I kind of like about the Black Templar, it's kind of adjacent to what I like about the Sisters of Battle. That's kind of what I think that my like of the Black Templar is like an accidental overspill from my joy with the Sisters of Battle, and that is the crazy religious nuns. Right? The really over the top, like we're super religious, we're gonna purge the unclean. What? Wah! We are the apex of the Imperium. We are what the Imperium represents. That I like. Right? Which is why I don't like Space Marines. Because Space Marines are far too reasonable. They're far too reasonable for what they are. They should be I dedicated a video to this. Where I talked about Space Marines, I talked about Primaris, I talked about how Space Marines should really be very unreasonable people, but they're not. They're often depicted as the most reasonable people around. Case in point, the Ultramarines, right? The Ultramarines. And they are the poster boy of the Space Marines, and they are like we're the only people who can run a successful empire. Well done, Rebecca Gulman. You have run, you're a successful despot. Very good. Now he's the hero of Warhammer 40k. Awesome. I love the fact that the game has a hero now. I love that. I'm not at all being ironic. Anyway, we all know why these armies exist, right? The Genestealer cults, the Custodes, the Leagues of Votan now. And it's simple. Chapter House. It all goes back to Chapter House. I might have been researching. Y'all best look forward to a video that's coming out on Tuesday. This Tuesday it's coming out. But I've been researching a lot of Chapter House stuff. And all of this goes back to Chapter House. Because Chapter House Studios, for those who don't know, was a little mini manufacturer who they were a third-party mini manufacturer. And they were manufacturing things for Warhammer games. For Warhammer 40k. And they were bits. They were selling like shoulder pads. But they were selling models as well. People forget this. The actual Chapter House Studios were selling miniatures. And they were selling miniatures of stuff like Custodes. They were selling those types of miniatures. And Games Workshop was like, hey, you can't sell Custodes. We own Custodes. And Chapter House were like, prove it. And Games Workshop were like, yeah, look, see? We wrote about Custodes in this book 7 years ago. We invented them. And you've copied our drawings and you've made miniatures of them. And the question in the court was, do you own the copyright to something that doesn't exist? Right? Do you own the copyright to a miniature of a drawing? Do you own that? That was the question. And, Games Workshop lost a lot of claims in that court case, and it really terrified them. And that's why, to this day, they are coming out with all those old designs, all those old factions, all that stuff. The Breachers, they're all coming out. Games Workshop are still making these models based on all their old stuff, because every single miniature they make solidifies their copyright. It stops any third party from ever making miniatures based on those designs. Because now they've got miniatures, right? Now they've got miniatures of those old designs. And that's like super important. Chapter House has changed everything. I'm really looking forward to it. Not the trial, it happened 10 years ago. But it absolutely affected every single thing that you see Games Workshop do today. There is a direct legacy that goes back to the Chapter House Studios trial. I'm not gonna say anymore because like why am I giving away the game? Why am I blowing away all the smoke from the clickbait that has to go on the front of that video in order to get anybody to listen to a video about a complicated legal courtroom drama about trademark and copyright that took place 10 years ago about little toy soldiers. How else can I get people to listen to that except for say something like, this is the biggest thing that ever happened to Games Workshop, even if it's true? Which it is true, by the way. It is the biggest and most important thing that has ever happened to Games Workshop. By the way, I give the impression that the Chapter House video is coming out on Tuesday. It is not, but there is a video that is coming out on Tuesday that is based directly on... No, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. It's a really big video, though, on Tuesday. I hope you look forward to it. It's 2 days late. It's 2 days late because of how much research and work went into trying to put it. It's not like the Chapter House video. That's going to be coming out at a later stage, but I am in the research of Chapter House right now. I've been looking through Chapter House. I've been reading through all the old musty tomes. It has been a lot of work. I think I talked about this last, 2 weeks ago on my last stream. That it's been going on for a while. I've been doing this for a while. Anyway, we got off the point, but that's why Leagues of Votan exist. It's also, by the way, why you don't get to build things now on sprues that, or rather, Games Workshop don't release the options for units that are not reflected on the sprues that they make. Everything they make now has to be reflected in plastic. Everything. That's why you get those real wonky sort of, if you've got 3 cultists, then you may have 1 grenade launcher. If you have 6 cultists, then you may also include a chainsaw sword. Right? All these kind of weird, wacky, like, if they're X, then Y, and they're really complicated. That's why. It all goes back to chapter high. This is like the venom that lies in the heart of Games Workshop. It's a deep, dark pit. Sorry, chat is still trying to grapple with the idea that I am to this day tempted by the big Black Templar boys. Derpy Man says, World Leaders next, there's already Berserkers, but I'm sure I have a patrol box and characters and others. World Leaders, yeah, World Leaders is gonna be big. World Leaders are gonna be big. World Leaders do not tempt me. They do not tempt me. They don't tempt me as much as the Black Templars. World Leaders are a little bit too, I've never been like super bought into Chaos. Except for in Warhammer Fantasy. I was really into Chaos for Warhammer Fantasy. But that's because they look real cool, to be honest. Like, that's just, they look like they're all off the front of a metal album. It was very nice. It was very nice. In fairness, that was Warhammer Fantasy, right? The front of a metal album. I have like a half melted ice cream here, and it's very sad. Scython says, Discourse, the real reason they brought back Guilliman was so that they can introduce an Eldar waifu. Oh my god! You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. An Eldar waifu. My goodness. Well, I mean, that kind of is that. I hate that. So, the Eldar are interesting, right? Because the Eldar have always occupied a space in Warhammer 40k that is very curious, where they will sometimes work with the Imperium, and the Imperium will accept their help. But usually it's like a rogue general who then gets executed later for having done so. Now, you gotta remember, I was forged in the fires of hate. I was forged in the grim dark days of the 2000s, when everything was serious, and super serious, and so super serious, and I always assumed it was just entirely a big joke. Where everything was just grim derp, right? Grim derp. Everything was dumbly over the top. It was totally crazy. It was too much. But that has slowly given way. And while I'm not opposed to the idea that, like, all the dumb decisions kind of slowly go away, I do miss them. And also, secondly, I feel like they're losing the heart of what makes Warhammer, right? And that's not like, so, and what I mean by that is just kind of, the thing that's interesting about the IP is that, like, they're all villains. And so whenever you start to give Guilliman and make him kind of cool and, like, kind of a cool guy, and he's, like, the head of this despotic, religious, authoritarian government, and you're like, oh, look how cool Guilliman is, isn't he the goodie? And you're not joking when you say that, when you're, like, actively just being like, why don't you buy the new Guilliman model? That's a problem. That becomes a problem, I think. Amit says, 2 days late may end up costing you for 18 years. 2 days late? 2 days late? Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, man. Could do so. I figured I'm streaming today. Instead of having a video come out, we'll have the video come out on Tuesday instead. Give me some more time to research. Because it was a lot of work. George Ashkin said, things I noticed today is kill teams give you only an A or B build for figure. Yeah, I did test that. And that's partly to get you to buy double the amount of models. That's partly to do that. Because if you know, say, for example, with the veteran guardsman squad with kill team, you absolutely love the plasma gun. You're like, oh my god, I'm all about the plasma. Why wouldn't you be? The plasma is like the only good fucking weapon that you get. The sniper's okay, but your plasma's like incredible. It's so good. It's so much better than everything else. The box, you can only make one of them, and you can only make that. And there's another weapon, the melter gun. But in the rules, you can have like 2 plasmas and 2 melter guns, and you want that because it's so much better than just any other option. So you want all 4 of those. I'm not 100% of the specifics here, but it's vaguely from when I remember. I made this like a year ago. So what you have to do is you have to buy another box to build your second plasma guy. And then you'll have like 8 models left over that you don't care about. And that's fine. That's by design. Like, that's the point. Like, it's no more devious than that. That's the point. It's to get you to buy the box twice. And we can tell this because if you go onto the website right now, I have Games Workshop, and you look up the Warcry gangs, and you look up and you see what they're being sold as, look at the oldest ones. The ones that are kind of like, we can't sell these for as high. Look at what Games Workshop have done. They've sold double. They're the exact same models. They give you double the models. This is the intention against Workshop. They expect you to be buying more than 1 box of these skirmish games. They don't expect you people just to buy a box and move on, be on your way. Why would they expect that? And whenever they put it in big, massive bundles, they're like, hey, maybe a couple of people will buy more than 1 bundle. The terrain in it's pretty swell, right? Yeah, that's how they get you. That's the plan of that thing. I prefer, however, this style here, if you can see, like the Stargate box, where you just get a spruce and you can just make everything. You just get a bunch of them, and you get like a ton of redundancies. That's kind of what I like. That's the vibe that I'm a big fan of. Mike Gainey says, what? You mean the guys obsessed with genetic purity are the bodies? No way, Discourse. Not anymore, Mike. No, they're the heroes of the Imperium. This is like one of those things you never get to see. So I say this all the time. I'm always like, yeah, Space Marines being described as heroes are kind of lame. I don't really like it. I think it kind of confuses things, and I think it does actually give the wrong impression about, like, what Space Marines are. People often say, like, well, you know, other factions are sort of, it's kind of one of the things where it's like a bias of the factions. Other factions sometimes get described as goodies in the context of their own kind of cultures, right? But they don't. And to demonstrate it, I want to talk about the Dark Eldar. Let's talk about the Dark Eldar for a hot second. Have you ever seen the Dark Eldar get described as the goodies? Or even, like, vaguely the protagonists? Ever. Like, ever. Have the Dark Eldar... As a Dark Eldar player, I'm feeling very left out in the cold over here. Because to me, the Dark Eldar are the only moral and ethical force in the entire galaxy. They are. They're the only goodies. They're the only goodies. Dark Eldar have to go out into the terrifying real space filled with hostile predators and vicious creatures like humans. And they have to go out there and they have to catch a bunch of them and bring them to the fighting pits so that the people can be entertained. But more than that, can be fed. Because if it weren't for those heroic pirates, those heroic seamen who go out into real space, we wouldn't have gladiators fighting in the blood pits. And if we didn't have gladiators fighting in the blood pits, then people would not want to eat. They wouldn't be able to eat. They wouldn't be able to feed. They wouldn't be able to feed. Because how does the Dark Eldar society work? Well, all of their souls have been caught by Slaanesh. And if they don't get a certain amount of, unenlightened minds would call it torture, but I like to call it, seasoning. If living meat isn't seasoned by the Dark Eldar, then the unfortunate pain that those creatures are under does not satisfy Slaanesh, and their soul gets snatched up, and they live literally in hell for eternity. That's, like, really bad. That's, like, the moral equivalent, I think. Like, consider it this way. The Dark Eldar are above humans. Like, they're just more important than humans. Like, look at them. They're like, look! Dark Eldar are just more important than humans. So, I'm just saying, they are the goodies. The Dark Eldar are the goodies. They're basically the equivalent of meat eaters. There's, like, no problem. There's, like, no problems at all. Bada bing, bada boom. Dark Eldars are the goodies. I want to see the next box set from Games Workshop. I want to see Warhammer 10th edition. I want to see the blazes on the front of it. I want to see a Dark Eldar. I want to see Hero of Camorra. Heroes of Camorra ride out to fight the vicious and bloodthirsty Space Marines. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. What's wrong? What's wrong? It doesn't apply equally? Does it not? No? Does it not? No? Dark Eldar, free healthcare, free per Imperial citizens from the Draconian overlords. Definitely Spartaner. I mean, obviously, you look at the Imperium, the humans don't know what the hell's going on. They don't know how to run a society. Best take them to Camorra, where they can find out how to run a successful society. There's probably a video in that. I don't think it would get very many views, though. By the way, when I say stuff, I am always 100% serious. Doobie-Man says, Tyranids are the good guys. Don't villainize animals for survival, and humans taste good, probably. Nah, I disagree with that, because humans taste bad. I think they're maliciously going after humans. Humans taste really terrible. And don't ask me how I know that, because I will not answer unless I'm in a courtroom. Symbiote Mullet says, Heroes of Camorra. Sounds like a great movie, actually. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I really do want that video game where you're playing as a guardsman, you're lost in Camorra, and there's a bunch of Dark Eldar chasing after you, and you're going, ah! It's like a horror game. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Edward Guzman says, personally, I think the Votan, like the TOW, allows Games Workshop to attract new players with modern aesthetics, and TOW is my secret shame buy. Firstly, Edward, don't be ashamed of your purchase of TOW. Don't be. I've been around since the TOW were first introduced. No, actually, they were introduced a little bit later than me, but they were not like I existed, but they were introduced a little bit later. But even at that time, they were still new, right? They were still very fresh. People talked about them a lot in that context. So to me, they're always like a new army in my mind. But don't be ashamed of like buying into the TOW. I think the TOW look good. Like they're fine. Like the thing is, I always loved their poses. I was always very jealous as an Imperial Guard player that the TOW players, their units got to like aim down the sights of their guns. Like damn, I was always very jealous of that. But I mean, to be honest, the the Votan, I think you're right. Right? I think you're right in terms of the aesthetics. And I think that's fine. I think the idea of armies appealing to certain different demographics, I think that is totally fine. I think that is kind of what Votan are meant to do. I think they're meant to appeal to a younger demographic. I do think that's the case. And that is fine. I just wish they had more character. It's kind of my problem with them. Because, I mean, ultimately, I can only advocate for what I want to see. You know, and that's fine whenever it's things like lower prices, when it's more accessibility, when it is less kind of bad bundles, like not selling early access, not trying to sell sort of like DLC, right? These kind of things. Like everybody agrees with that. But then like whenever you get more subjective stuff, like actually actually there's a lot of people who don't disagree with trying to lower prices, which is wild to me. But then you get people who, this kind of element where I talk about generic kind of models, that is far more subjective, right? That's far more subjective, and that's fine if you don't dislike it. And I can only advocate for what I want in my opinion. And my opinion is I want to be wowed. You know, when I see a model, I want to go wow, huh? I want to be shocked. I want to go woo. And I wanna fall in love. I wanna dream. I wanna dream a dream of death, right? I wanna see something that makes me just shiver. I want twinkles down my spine. Twinkles? I'll run with it. That's what I want. And unfortunately, League of Votan just did not deliver that. And so therefore, I'm kind of always gonna be a bit like, see, because I know Games Workshop can do it, because Games Workshop did it with the Gene Stealer cult. It was like, wow. They got it. They elicited a wow from me. Now, obviously, not all things are going to appeal to all people, and that's fine. That's fine. But I can only cause it as I see it. Do you know what I mean? But I take your point. Like, I do. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Tabletop Transformer says, WTF, there was an ad in your live stream? Yeah, it does that, doesn't it? I thought that YouTube filtered in ads. You mean you guys haven't been getting ads? No wonder there's been no one bloody joining the memberships. What's the point in this, YouTube? Discourse gotta eat. Yeah, okay. To be honest, I don't know how the ads work. So I thought that they already were filtered in by YouTube. So, Snorbo says, why do they not have big beards? They don't have big beards because the helmets go to like there. So they wouldn't be able to model the beards. So, yeah, that's why, basically, the armor. Yurleth Width says, fun fact, the word squats was actually banned from the original early 2000s for GW 40k forums. I can believe that. Games Workshop always trying to bury the bodies. Maddie Lumley says, Votan is such a non-name too. It's a Caradrin issue. Nobody can pronounce your name, so they're going to say squats or steampunk dwarfs. In fairness, I mean, like, that's Warhammer, isn't it? Like, Warhammer 40k is filled with nonsense names. It always has been. Like, the Arbites, the Adeptus Mechanicus, like, all these kind of, like, wild sort of names. I will say, though, I don't know whether or not, if that's what you meant, or if you meant more that Votan, it's just like nothing. It doesn't inspire any thoughts. And I do agree with that. I think that Votan as kind of a word is just like, it's air. It's like colored in air. You know what I mean? It's silence colored in a little bit. I 100% agree with you there. Silence says, oh, I'm a member and I get ads anyway. What? What? You get ads? Dingo says as well, you get ads. The membership. What the hell? Come on. That's not cool. How do I stop that? I thought that there was able to stop that. I thought that the memberships prevented ads. I mean, they get the... members get sort of priority response to comments, and they get access to secret Discord lobbies, but I didn't realize that also they get cool emotes as well, anyone interested. But I didn't realize you guys got to see the ads as well. I thought that actually disabled it. What's kind of lame. I will say though, and this doesn't count for the live streams because I don't repost the live streams, but for the actual videos, anyone who does not want to watch ads, check out patreon.com/discourse managers. Awesome, because I post up ad-free content there. Because I too hate ads. Votan, ha! Says Sam Snood. I actually don't know what's going on there. Jacob says the beers were eaten by the Nids. It was the best source of biomass. Was it? Feels like a breakfast, really, you know? Scython with the big old Discourse cowboy. The Papa James Workshop. Yeah! Emotes. George says, all we need is Brian Blessed to lead the Votan and have jump throughs called Hawkman. Okay, right, okay. I'll be honest. You start getting some of those Hawkman in from, Flash Gordon. And I could be in. I'll be honest. Like, you could get me in. This Warhammer Adventures, it's all over again, says Bruva. Your left said, worst squats was banned by modders because the squat fans asking for the squats on the old forums. Yeah, I mean, like, that's Games Workshop trying to make sure that the word don't get out. The word does not get out. That's what they never want that, right? They never want that. Let me ask you guys a question. Let me ask chat a question. Do you think that it is too pejorative for me to say that things are generic? Is it rude? Is it whenever I say the Votan too generic, is that read as a pejorative? Because I've had people apologize to me for liking the squats or for liking the Votan. I'm like, it's cool. Like, you know, like you like Space Marines, don't you? I mean, apologize for that. I do. I'm always on my knees every night going, mea culpa, mea culpa. I just can't stop thinking of him. You flash to like a Black Templar in the background. You know, like I don't think that it's pejorative. Like to me, and like maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think that the word generic is necessarily pejorative. It just means what it means. It means kind of derivative. I mean, I guess that's kind of bad, right? It's like a lack of imagination. But I can't help but feel there's like a little bit of a lack of imagination that's been going into this. It just doesn't appeal to me. It's factual, says Jacob. Yeah. The Dyslexic Dragon says, so they got squatted in the forum as well. Oh god, they're getting squatted everywhere, yeah. For sure. Kodo says, instead of the generic Votan, you use Votan and trademark it. That is Games Workshop ammo, though. That is Games Workshop's ammo. George Atkins says, I like the Votan or the love child with Space Marines and Toy. That's how they feel, right? Well, they have that sort of technology. I think the thing I like about the Votan are probably their guns. I'm actually a little bit of a fan of the chunky guns, the chunky gun aesthetic. I like my chunks. I do like my chunks. Edward says the shame is behind Games Workshop. Now that is true. I do feel a lot of shame these days when I buy Games Workshop. Actually, what was the last thing? Oh, so I did get Warcry for those. Whenever I did my Shall I Break My Hobby Oath, I did indeed break it for the channel. I did buy Warcraft. I'm painting up the Horns of Hashut because I'm a big fan of the Chaos Dwarves, and these are basically the next best thing. I haven't based them yet. So for those who are interested, this is the kind of color scheme I've gone for. I've gone for Screamer Pink, and I've gone for Brass Bull with a little bit of Reichland Flesh here in there, and Brass Scorpion, and Brass Scorpion, not Brass Bull, but they've got bull helmets and they look really cool. Because I really like those designs, actually. I think they're really, very, really cool. But I was kind of reluctant to buy it, but luckily, ultimately I did. And I have recently had the terrain painted. I've been recently painting the terrain, and it has all been finished. So there might be. I haven't played a game yet of Warcraft. Just been kind of preparing for it, and maybe at some stage in the next year we might see a little review of Warcraft go out. Because next year my plan is to do a lot more reviews. I'm planning to do a lot more reviews. If you guys remember the one-page rules Grim Dark Future review, I did a review of that. I'm hoping to do more reviews next year. So I'm playing games this year, and then I'm hopefully going to have a gaming table next year that I can then play on in my house, and I will be able to then review it for the channel, which I'm kind of looking forward to. So I've been trying to sort of prepare a little bit for that as best I can in the meantime with the time that I have. Not that I'm like terminally ill or anything. Kata says, unpopular opinion, but I think as an old dwarf player, Mantic hit the space dwarf aesthetic better. So for those who don't know, in the thumbnail, it is actually a Mantic Forge Folder dwarf model. I can't remember which one in specific. It's like one of their mechs is in the thumbnail. I use that because I think that there's actually a lot of design similarities. Not like a ton, but I agree with you. I actually do like the Forge Folder aesthetic that Mantic have for their game. Now, I will say this much though. A lot of those sculpts are old. And older Mantic sculpts aren't that great. I think the newer Mantic sculpts are pretty good, but the older ones I'm not a fan of. And I've heard some horror stories about some of the older sculpts, but the newer ones look really good. What is the least generic 40k faction though? Dark Eldar. That is actually an incredibly interesting question. What is the least generic? I would have to say probably Genestealer cults. Adeptus Mechanicus are pretty ungeneric. Dark Eldar are pretty special to themselves. Custodes are actually, to be fair, Custodes are a little bit, they're all so, like, the Custodes are like this. The problem with Space Marines is Space Marines have been around for so long, it's hard not to see them as a relatively sort of faceless generic goons, you know? George Askin says, I've still got that Hell Cannon for Warhammer. It's manned by Chaos Dwarves. The Hell Cannon is so cool. Oh my god, guys, the Chaos Dwarves are so fucking metal. Like, they're so crazy. Like, they literally get demons and they forge them into weapons, like artillery and stuff, and fire souls at people. Like, come on. How is this not a metal album already? Does anyone else put Discourse videos, live chats on when they are hobbying? HP, I hope that you're painting in along with my voice, and so every single time I yell really quickly and I start talking really fast, you start having to hurry up, and then whenever I slow down, you start slowing down as well. I hope I'm not rushing you too hard. Mr. Apkin says, they both do the armor lanes equal sci-fi beers thing. Yeah, for sure. Like, to be honest, I'm not too sure if I want this, like... So, that's a kind of question, right? I didn't really want another army, but if I had to have another army, would Leagues of Votan be it? Which I think is actually a really interesting question. And no, is the answer. I haven't actually thought about it, because my mind, when I think of Warhammer 40k and factions these days, I'm like, dear God, please cut stuff. Like, at the very least, cut, like, a bunch of the sub-factions and things like that. I'm in, like, a cutting mood, because I feel like the game has, like, spiraled out of control, like, absolutely out of control. But I guess if I had to add an army, what would I want to add? What would I actually add? That's really interesting. It's kind of an unfair question, though, because I'm a little bit of an Imperial fangirl. Not Imperial, Imperium fangirl. Whoa, almost said the wrong thing there as an Irish person. But you start yelling collaborator or something, come for me. I am sort of an Imperium fangirl. To be honest, what I would want is not a new faction. What I would want are just new models for Imperial Guard. But specifically, like, Steel Legion and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'd want, like, new plastic sprues for a lot of those legions. Or for those, regiments. That's what I'd be a big fan of. Ruckus Muckus says, was too busy watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. Forgot the stream was on. Look, okay, I'm second to Indiana Jones. I guess I have to accept this reality, I suppose. Harrison Ford does come first, for sure. Why do all vehicles need to fly? That was only a tie thing, says Bruva. Yeah, I don't like that either. I like wheels. I like big wheels. I like big wheels that go vroom vroom. I've always been a fan of this, you know. I would have wanted to see, like, more muscle cars. That's the kind of stuff I would have wanted to see. George says, got a load of B1 battle droids to paint. Got the Battle Force box set yesterday. I had a lot of fun. I have a bunch of B1s over there. Let me see. Let me get it. Okay. For anyone who doesn't know, these are the B1s. I'm a big fan of them. I actually really like them. They were a lot of fun. They're very spindly. They're very spindly models. So what people say are that they're very hard to put together, but then they're really easy to paint. Because literally, what I did was a mix of Agros Dunes with Skeleton Horde. Just like slapped it right on there. Whoa! Like almost like a dip, you know? I just slapped it right on. It came out perfect. And there's a lot of people who say that the models are really hard to put together, but then really easy to paint. Honestly, I found them really easy to put together and really easy to paint. I thought they were a ton of fun. There was plenty of posability with them. They're little balls. They're little... That's what I was a big fan of. They're little balls. They're little ball joints, basically. So you could like move their arms around like so, and you could like customize the gun like that and stuff. I don't know. You could do more than that. It's just I'm like in a little box here, so I'm like in this rectangle. There's only so much I can show you, but like that's how they were put together, and they were a ton of fun for it. To be honest, I had a lot of fun assembling them. I quite like it. To be honest. Here's a spicy thing. You never play... If you're a big fan of Army War games, you haven't played Star Wars Legion, you should check it out. You should try and get a game in. I actually think it's a really good game. It's a big game. It's a big fun game. I only ever really talked about it on streams, because I don't think that, firstly, Star Wars Legion really needs, like, more coverage. Actually, I suppose it kind of does, because every game requires a little bit more coverage. But I don't really talk about too much on the channel, because there are elements of the game that I don't like. But in terms of the pure gameplay... yeah. Big fan. Big fan. I think it's definitely, if you have to pick a war game, the best war game to, like, show somebody new, and they're like, I like the sci-fi stuff, like Star Wars, show them Star Wars. Because Star Wars Legion is a better game to get into. The new battle system, so AMG are doing these, because AMG are now the custodians of Star Wars Legion. Fantasy Flight Games no longer have it. AMG, they started selling these battle sets, or like these themed bundles, where you can get like a bunch of like droids and stuff, which is the one that obviously you were saying about. And those are cool. I think the price of them is a little bit much, but it's not as bad as like a Warhammer box, if I recall correctly. So they're pretty cool. I do like them. And I think that's probably worth it. They're very specific for what they are, though. They come with like a specific general and stuff, which is kind of a bummer, so you might end up overbuying. And it does feel like some of them do feel like they're an excuse to get rid of leftover stock. Like, for example, the Empire and the Rebels one are both themed on Hoth, which consist of models that aren't exactly the biggest sellers in the world. Although the Empire one does have an ATST, and ATSTs are fucking cool, okay? So those are kind of nice. Those are kind of nice. Roger says Sam Snowden. Right, Roger. So good. That's what my, we've got a robot in the 5 parsecs from home crew. He's called Roger. I'm a big fan of him. I've actually been been playing a bunch of 5 parsecs from home. So I haven't played Stargrave, and I haven't played Space Station Zero yet. I want to play those, but I've been playing a bunch of 5 parsecs from home. I've been having a real blast with it. Where is it? Let me show it. Okay, so 5 parsecs from home. Oh my god. Sorry, I might have ruined the book. Okay, this is 5 parsecs from home, appropriately styled because we're in space. It's just a book. That's all it is. It's a book, and it has text inside it that is color coded based on the section that it's in, which is quite nice, which I'm a fan of. I do like that. And it is a solo adventure war game. It's a solo adventure war game. I'm playing cooperatively with a friend. And sometimes playing a solo, and it is a ton of fun. It's actually a ton of fun. So it's a very interesting game. If you like TTRPGs, you might enjoy it. You might get used to the systems. So what you do is you roll up the stats of units and stuff. It's a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed it. I will say, having played it a bunch now, that one thing I have noticed is the games are really short. So the actual games of 5 parsecs from home are really short. The campaign turns are kind of long. There's like a lot of steps to it. There's a ton of steps to it. So, for example, it'll be like, check if the planet has been invaded that you're staying on. It hasn't. Check then, like, roll for rivals. Like, all your dudes can do, like, a thing. Like, you can go off shopping. You can, each model makes a decision and goes off and does something. You can, like, go shopping. You can go, like, try and hunt down a rival. You can go try and find a patron. You can go, like, I don't know, go find rumors. You can go have an adventure. You can go, like, explore. You can do all these different stuff. And there's all these different tables. You roll on them. You see what happens. You might find, like, you might go explore, and then you might come across, like, a shifty individual who will then sell you some gear. Or you might go to the shop, and you might be able to buy an item and sell a couple of items. Or you might be able to go to, like, you find a patron, and they offer you, like, a special job. Or you might find your rival and be like, now we can attack them. Because you get rivals, you get patrons. It's very RPG-esque. And your rivals might attack you each turn. You gotta roll and see, and if they attack you, then you're not able to do, like, any of the missions you want to do because you're getting attacked by your rival this turn. So they sort of take over your round, and now you're being attacked rather than you going out to attack people. It's a very interesting game. It's very cool. It has a lot of really cool elements to it. I couldn't, like, 100% recommend it right now because I've only played, like, 6 games. I would say about 6 games. I played like 3 or 4 rounds. No, played 6 rounds or so, like something like that. I played 2 sessions of it, and I played like long sessions of it, and it's fun. It's fun. The games themselves, though, right? So you've got all this stuff going on, all these, like, mechanics around, you know, what's going to happen, you know, what are you going to go, like, what's your patron? Oh my god, this guy's going to pay us 6 credits, and he's giving us health insurance. This other guy's going to, like, come for us in the night. What are we going to do? And then you get into the match, and it's like a 20-minute match. Literally, it's like you've got 6 guys. They go out, they fight like the opponents. Very easy to die. You get shot. Oh god, you're downed. It's very easy to kill models, I should say. It's hard for your characters to specifically die. There's like injury rules and stuff. Thank you very much for the gifted membership there, Scython. Thank you very much. You've gifted it out. Let's see. Nudok Prime got the membership there. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that, Scython. I really appreciate that. And you kind of did gift. You kind of did gift memberships out these days, which is very cool. Thank you very much, Scython. I really appreciate that. But, yeah, it's been a ton of fun playing it. The gameplay itself is relatively basic, I will say. Now, I'm still at the very low levels. I haven't, like, leveled up a bunch. But so far, it's been pretty low level. There are these things called invasion battles that I'm really looking forward to, because that's where you're, like, fighting around your ship, and if your ship gets damaged, it's really bad, because then you're, like, trapped on a planet. And like, you're meant to roll and stuff to see what's going on in the galaxy each turn, and planets that were invaded, they might lose to the invasion and get taken over by, like, aliens and stuff. So that stuff is really neat. I do think that's really cool. I do really like those elements of it. It's a very novel game. And I'm a big fan, like, generally speaking, I'm a big fan of these big solo games, these big, like, story games that are coming out these days. I'm loving all these new mechanics and stuff. And it really does, it's kind of wild, because Warhammer has always been billed as a very narrative-based game, right? Like, there is a big debate in the community as to whether or not Warhammer should be considered a competitive or a narrative game. And of course, I Discourse Miniatures has to always be the contrarian and say that it's neither. It's not competitive, it's not narrative, it's not either, it's not really any one, it's just a game that exists. It's just a bundle of mechanics around being able to buy Space Marine models. I don't think it like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can play it narrative, and you can play it competitively. But I don't think it's really, it doesn't excel at either one of those tasks, right? I don't think that it's, like, perfectly viable to play either one. It's not optimized for either one, because it is in a lot of ways trying to be the jack of all trades, trying to be the master to all men. But it's not able to quite achieve that, I don't think, because no game could truly achieve that. So games that just lean all in on the narrative, like 5 Parsecs from Home, I've heard good things about Rangers of Shadow Deep as well. But I'm in a sci-fi vibe right now. I'm in like a big sci-fi mood right now. So later on, maybe I'll go into the fantasy mood, because I've got Frostgrave there as well I want to play. So I'm playing that 5 Parsecs from Home, and then I'm going to try and play Hope Eternal as well at the same time. And maybe I'll ooh, okay, hold on, maybe I'll review it. Maybe I'll review all 3. Maybe I'll review, okay, hold on. I'm coming up with a video idea now. So I'm thinking what we could do is we could review 5 Parsecs from Home versus Stargrave, Hope Eternal, versus Space Station Zero. Because what you've got there are like 3 co-op solo games that have story elements imbued within them that you could, like, in theory, like, what I could do is I could take my little Stargrave minis, I could take these minis, all 6 of them, and I could play the different games with the same minis. And I could be like, which one did it better? Like, which one did what? Oh, that could be an interesting video. I won't be able to do it this year, I don't think, because I don't have a table to play. Like, I gotta go down to a gaming store, and I can't really record stuff there because I would be embarrassed, to be perfectly frank. So I'm not gonna be able to record stuff down there. But next year, when I get moved out of my parents' house, we could do that. We could do that. Tarmanel, thank you very much for the donation. Thank you very much. Says, just a question for curiosity. One of the cheapest, smartest buy, and one of the expensive, Guilty Pleasure miniature purchases for the collection. Okay, one of the cheapest. What's the smartest buy? Okay. What is the most expensive Guilty Pleasure? So for the smartest buy for me, Tarmanel, what I would say is almost 100% the Carnivale starter box. I've harked on about this box a couple of times. That's because, honestly, I thought the value of it was so superb. You get 2 full gangs for the game. Carnivale is I've said this many times, but I'll quickly give you the quick synopsis. Carnivale is a miniature war game where you're playing sort of like 1795 kind of characters in Venice, where it's like this fantastical context where a rift has opened up in the sky, everything's changed, there's monsters and stuff, and there's magic and things like that. And the starter box comes with a full gang for what are known as the guild, who are like the mafiosa who run the streets of Venice, and the Rashar, who are basically like Lovecraft Deep One fish monsters and stuff. And you get 2 full of those gangs, and it was something like £60, I want to say. It was something like £60, so what, about $80? And you get those 2 full gangs, you get tiles. They're not like plastic tiles, they're card tiles of canals and things, so you could put out like a full 3x3 board with canals depicted on these tiles. You get a bunch of like little bridges, like they're sort of cardboard bridges. You get a bunch of cardstock buildings as well, and you get like a resin sort of gondola, because that's actually relevant to the gameplay. You can like ride gondolas about the canals, and you get all of this, and you get your dice, you get some acrylic tokens, you get a metal coin for to say who's currently the first player. And it was like very cheap for what you get in it, and it was a super playable experience out of the box. It was like buying a board game. So you buy it, you've got a full crews, 2 equally matched crews, you get unit cards for all the units, you get your rule book as well in there, you get all the rules, you get a starter guide too, you've got all the terrain you'll ever need. I've literally only played Carnival with the terrain included in that box, and I've never noticed it to be bad, because there's a lot of verticality in that game. It's kind of like Necromunda, except actually good. And so you want to climb a lot, you want to climb up, and you want to jump down on people. It's like Assassin's Creed, the game, right? And so you want to jump around and stuff, and you can do that based on all the terrain in that game. Absolutely incredible, super value, most super value purchase I've ever bought in mini wargaming. I think I'd have to like really search my thoughts like a Sith. I would, because that's my default. I don't default to Jedi. I default to Sith. I'd have to like really search my thoughts and find out whether or not that was truly. But like off the top of my head, that is the most value one. I gotta say that is the cheapest. Let's see. The smartest buy, I think, because it's not like the cheapest thing ever. But obviously, I've bought like for example, I think that maybe the Necromunda models were pretty good value too, because I bought the Escher Gang, and that's all that I needed, and that was pretty good value. Like, and that's a Games Workshop game, right? That was really good value. The Guilty Pleasure miniature purchase. Oh wow. Guilty Pleasure miniature purchase, I have to say probably the Batman miniature game, like any purchase in that game. Those models are incredibly expensive. Absolutely incredibly expensive. Like 100, like they are so expensive for what they are. Now they're beautiful models, but they require a ton of cleanup. They're like resin, and I get got by them because I love the IP. Specifically, I love Batman the Animated Series, and the models that remind me of what I could get in Batman the Animated Series, like tap into this like primordial childhood of mine. This like childhood I never had, because I'm still crying about my toy collection. My mom threw out my toy collection before I was ready to let go, and now I'm like trying to rebuild it every day. I have been scarred mentally by this, and so the Batman miniature game, I've paid too much money for Batman minis, and I think that's probably the most expensive one. I think maybe let's pick a specific model, which will be like the model for me. Maybe the I'm looking at my collection here. Maybe the Black Mask one. You didn't get a ton of resin there. You didn't get a ton of plastic for the price. That was a pretty pricey buy for me. And I buy, like, so the Batman mini models are kind of like, they can be on a 60mm base with like a really big elaborate base, or they can be on a 40mm base with a lot less. And I always built them on a 40mm base because I think they look better that way as game pieces rather than statues. So yeah, that's probably like the Batman mini game is probably like my silly purchases that I make. And in fact, actually, I don't buy them as much anymore because like the prices are too much. Like you can't collect Batman minis, I think, and another game. It's just far too expensive. It's just far too expensive. And they come out with stuff pretty regularly. So yeah, that's probably my most guilty pleasure buy for sure. That or the new Warcry box set, honestly. The Warcry box set was a pretty guilty purchase. Dingo, thank you very much for the donation. Thank you, he says. Mate, I enjoy your videos and live streams. You put so much enthusiasm and passion into them. The Irish accent is the cherry on top, mate. Check out our program, Stream Elements with your lives. The Force is with you always. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's really kind. I thank you so much. I do really appreciate that. And I do have passion. I love the video wargaming hobby. I really do love it. For some reason I get accused of like negativity a lot. I don't get it. I think it's because on my thumbnails I'm always going, but you know, I'm just trying to have fun out here, guys. Like I absolutely adore mini wargaming completely. I think it's a really fun hobby. I think it's a ton of fun. Mayamoto says, when will Resident Evil be released in tabletop? Wasn't it already? I'm not breaking an NDA by saying that, am I? Wasn't Resident Evil already released on tabletop? Or are you talking about Tabletop Simulator? Ooh. Jeffrey says, please, Discourse. Will you do a video on the rising energy costs and how it affects wargaming? I'd love to hear your take on the future. Jeffrey, actually, funny you should say that. I actually I planned on making that, and then, oh god, Andy from Blackjack Games, he did a video on it. So I still have a take on it that I think is a little bit different from his. So I might still do that. So maybe it will be soon, because I very much fly by the seat of my pants. I never know what the hell I'm making until the chapter house video that I'm working on at the minute, and one other video that I'm not going to reveal what it's about. They're videos that I'm planning to do, that I'm working on, that I'm actively like researching and stuff, because they're really big topics, and that I'm planning to come out with. But other videos, like, generally are, I make them in response to things that are going on in the hobby. Right now, I will say that the rising cost of energy has not 100% been felt yet. We're seeing lots of indie tabletop companies close, especially in tabletop RPGs. So I'd have to like look into the war game side of things for sure. But I do have I have an opinion on it. Like, I do have big opinions on that. So I think it does warrant a video. For sure. So you might just get your wish, Jeffrey. Dubiman says, I bought some green plastic army in 1985 for 50p. Jeez, sounds like a bit of a ripoff, honestly, did they? I used to love playing with my army man, for sure. Kylo says, thank you very much for the donation. Kylo says, because if I weren't watching the stream, I'd be off buying more minis. Well, I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. That really helps the channel out. It really does. Now that especially now I'm full time. I really rely on you guys, so thank you so much. Kylo says, oh my gosh, I arrived just in time to join in on the pain of having beloved toys thrown away before I was ready. And now I've been obsessed with little things. I think there might be a story there for a lot of us, right? I think there might be a little bit of identification there for all of us, for sure. Why else do we like to collect so many things? I mean, I'll be honest, I do have hoarding tendencies, you know? And that comes out in the minis. And I think lots of people do. The Great Gaming Survey, I'm really looking forward to the results of this year's one, but the last year's Great Gaming Survey showed that, it was the third most popular thing in mini wargaming was collecting. And I think that like really that really does show. And Games Workshop take advantage of it a lot, by the way. They take advantage of it a lot. Anytime someone says, oh, you don't have to buy it, there is a lot of people out there who are collectors and they would disagree with you. They need to buy it. Dejane says, you care too much, Discourse. Hey there, Jane, how you going? How you doing? Hope you're having a lovely weekend. Yes, I do. I care too much. I have too much of a song in my heart. Bruba says, what will be the most popular army Warhammer Old World in popular army in Warhammer Old World? Oh my god. Well, I'm thinking about doing a video on this as well. If we're getting those weapons that we're showing off for the Cities of Sigmar redo for Age of Sigmar, it's not gonna be the Empire. If those weapons are for the Empire armies in the old world, it's not gonna be the Empire. But I think that the old world, we're gonna see like multiple different states represented. I'm hoping so. Anyway, I think we're gonna see like Reichland, we're gonna see like Stirland, we're gonna see, you know, like whoever else, Talbotland, you know. I don't think we'll ever see Solent. But like I think we're gonna see like Wizenland. Like I think we're gonna see like a bunch of different states, and they're all gonna have different individual armies. Which, oh my god, I'd actually be so excited for. Okay, that's so dumb though. I'm like, yes, less variety. Yes, please, thank you. The Horus Heresy of Renaissance, like 17th century warfare. I want to see an Empire Civil War. Screw Horus Heresy. Space Marines are boring. Give me men in tights any day. Yes. Rodio Blum says, so many non-Games Workshop Warhammer games out there. There's so many. There are so many, Rodeo. They're absolute insane amounts. Airfix was my first ever mini, says Dingo. Wow, Airfix. Warhammer was my first minis. With tabletop RPGs, I can be like all cool and stuff and say, I never even played Dungeons and Dragons until like I'd already played like 10 other games. Warhammer, not so. Warhammer was the hobby to me for a long time. I'm like one of those people you see in an AE meeting, you know, like sitting in the chair being like, hi everyone, I'm Discourse and I was a Warhammer player. That's me, all right. I played a lot of Warhammer. I was Warhammer like only. I bought into the IP and stuff. I was a big fan of it. And just, I discovered there was other games. There was a lot of problems I had with Warhammer, you know, pricing being a really big one. It happens to my friends even these days. It's like the big thing that really annoys me. This is like what inspires me to get up in the morning. Is because I have friends who are like big fans of Warhammer, who play Warhammer. Or rather, I did have friends who were big fans of Warhammer and did play Warhammer, but they were priced out of the hobby. They can't afford to play anymore. They can't afford to play. And that to me is a damn shame. You've got people who are like really into the IP, really into the setting, really into the games, really into the storytelling, really want to be part of the hobby, and they can't. They're actively priced out because they're too poor, is the answer. Because they can't afford to play. And that to me is a damn shame. And that is what, honestly, every single day, I get annoyed again. I get annoyed at that. And I think that's so frustrating. So that's what inspires me every single day. That and the fear of that, and I look at video games and I go, oh my dear god, it's coming, because we're seeing it for Dungeons and Dragons now, which is absolutely terrifying. So terrifying. I'm sure that Gene has plenty of opinions on that. Maybe we'll talk about it on the Gaming Materialists, on the podcast that I'm on, with Gene. Soviet Bear 1917 says, I tossed all the old original Star Wars toys my parents saved. Nostalgia is pain. Oh my god, you got rid of them, Soviet Bear. You are heartless. You're cruel. I do not have your fortitude. I do not have it at all. Anthony says, Chaos Warriors all the way. Dingo, we have a winner. Yes, Chaos Warriors are so cool. I'm sorry, I'll broker no disagreement on that. Chaos Warriors are absolutely awesome. I'm not as big a fan of them in Age of Sigmar. I think they're too dynamic, which is kind of a wild thing to say, but I like the old models. I like the more restrained models, because the old restrained versions of them look like they were in the front of a metal album. I don't know what the hell's going on with Archaon these days, but he does not look as cool as the previous Archaon. Big thoughts here on Discourse minis. Sidebone says they should have bought out the Great Crusade and relaunched 7th and good with all factions. The Great Crusade, huh? Relaunch 7th with, that could be an interesting one, actually. Do you know, I'd like to see the Unification Wars. I think that would be pretty cool. Grant Ghoul says, who is the non-Votan guy in the thumbnail? That is a Forge Father model from Mantic Games. You'll be able to find that on Mantic Games. It is one of the big mechs that they have. So I'm not actually familiar with the Forge Fathers too much, but I thought it was a nice striking model that looked kind of, actually kind of similar. If you look at all the designs, the armor designs and stuff, it looks kind of similar to the Games Workshop Votan. Larry says, too purr. I don't understand. What do you, I don't understand. Remir says, any updated thoughts on the upcoming War Machine relaunch so far? Nothing, Remjar, that sort of has made me change my opinion. But I haven't been following it too closely. I haven't, but nothing, like, has happened since then. I'm really concerned for War Machine. I actually think that this launch is not, there's definitely a community for War Machine. I don't think that it is big. I don't think that they're able, like, because if you remember last year, right? Does everyone remember this? Like, probably about this time last year, people were starting to get really down on Games Workshop. A lot of stuff had happened. We had oh god, I can't even remember. I can't even actually remember everything that had went down. But Games Workshop was getting boycotted. There was talking about like boycotts and stuff, and Battletech was able to, like, actually, by accident, Battletech became, like, the sort of, the nom de jeu, like, the kind of, the game with the cultural cachet, the game with the cultural capital. Everyone started to talk about Battletech a lot more. And honestly, like, if a moment like that arose, I'd like to see what War Machine, like, what would happen with War Machine, but I just don't feel like it's really the game of the moment. It just feels very old now, which is kind of sad, because it was at the time when it first came up, it was very dynamic. And, yeah, so, I mean, like, look, here's the thing. I don't wish any company to feel. I don't want any company to feel. I want them to make good games, and I want to play good games. That's what I want, and I want them to be affordable good games. I don't want them to screw over customers, right? These are like all very simple asks, in my opinion. That's what I want, and so it's kind of sad whenever, like, I don't want to see like War Machine fail as a game, because it was at one stage a huge competitor with Games Workshop. I'm not like rooting for Games Workshop to like crush them or anything, but I just think that they will. So it's just like it is what it is there. So nothing has changed for me. We need a June game, says Dejeen. Dude, we already got it. It's called Warhammer 40k. You doy. Benjamin says, a Forge Father Iron Ancestor. Very good. Zeclara says, War Machine is such a cool world set, especially as an RPG. The games are fun, but 40k got people by the balls. I mean, that kind of goes for... There's a lot of war games, though, that are, like, really fun, have really cool mechanics, have a really awesome setting, but, like, nobody plays it. Everybody plays Warhammer. Although, that said, whenever you go to game stores, like, you can go to different places, and there are, like, people... There's like communities of games out there. I heard about a game store that has a huge community that like everybody there plays Turnip 28, and I love that, right? Like I love that. Like obviously Turnip 28 is really taken off over there, so that's kind of wild. Game stores, like not everyone, like you can go to different game stores and play different games, but it's gonna be like the local scene will really matter, which is really interesting. You know, there's actually something kind of nice about that all these people are having different experiences and stuff. Tobias says, I was looking at War Machine yesterday. Is it just me or are the models really expensive? I'm missing something. They are, Tobias. I think they're far too expensive, especially for like 3D printed models. I think they're far too expensive. And to be honest, they don't appeal to me like aesthetically. They look like a bit of a jumbled mess to me. Like I don't see it. Like I don't get what's cool about them. I would have wanted to have played War Machine back whenever War Machine was really big, but that would have been because of the gameplay. Like War Machine as an aesthetic experience is not really for me, I don't think. I just don't care about like big mechs fighting each other that much. And if I do, I don't want them to look like whatever War Machine, like the War Machine mechs look like. I think I cared more about Warhammer Hordes, but even then, it wasn't, like, really super to my taste either. So it just is what it is. Like, I mean, that's just a question of taste. That's horses for courses right there. Doobie says, GW price rise during the lockdown, blackmailing fan enemies, the NDA, much more to come, says Doobie. Yeah, that was, like, a really bad time for Games Workshop for sure. They had, like, a lot of bad stuff going on. And that's actually, I mean, it was kind of talking about a lot of that stuff and explaining why they were happening and what was going on. That really led to a lot of growth of the channel, actually. It was, like, talking about that stuff. And, like, I'm glad to continue to be able to point out a lot of that nonsense the Games Workshop get up to, because they do get up to this stuff. I think that there was a time there when everyone thought the Games Workshop were getting better. That Games Workshop had kind of, and I think bringing back the White Dwarf, it seemed like they were responding to complaints, and then they just doubled down on their absolute worst impulses. And it was as soon as they started getting a sniff of money, I think, is what led to them. They started making more money, and now they're kind of desperate. I think it has, like, irrevocably harmed them that they made so much money, because now they're constantly trying to chase that high. It's like a drug addict, right? Whenever you get this, like, really incredible high and you go chasing after it forever, it's never going to be as good as the first. It's never going to be as good, you know? But they're chasing it forever and ever and ever like a junkie. Ramjer says, yeah, I agree. The relaunch of War Machine seems rushed and ill-planned, hoping it holds on, but we'll see. I'm really worried, honestly. Like, I'm really worried. I think that, I don't think it's gonna be that successful, honestly. I don't think it's gonna, like, take on. I don't hear people really talking about it much. My Privateer Press... Like, Privateer Press, to me, I knew them more for Pathfinder, right? Privateer Press, or was it just D&D 3.5? But I knew Privateer Press for, like, RPGs. But I'm worried that this new launch of War Machine kind of is, like, a last hurrah, like a last-ditch attempt to prevent bankruptcy. And I'm concerned that if this doesn't work, then it's going to be the end of old Privateer Press, which would be a real shame, in my opinion. Which would be a real shame. Patty Porter said, I'm having a little bit of trouble trying to play anything other than GW's games at the hobby store. It's a 45-minute drive and the other players are flaky with other games. Patty's Parlor! Welcome to the miniature wargaming hobby. Sit down. Have a seat. You're having a little bit of trouble trying to get anybody to play any other game than a Games Workshop game, and people are being very flaky. I am afraid to say, I am very afraid to say, I must reveal that this is unfortunately a very common experience that everybody, I think, in this chat probably has had. Anyone who's interested in playing any game other than a Warhammer game has more than likely encountered this problem before. And honestly, I don't have a ton of advice for you. Aside from, you have to really nail people down and try and get people interested in the games that you're interested in. You've got to really advocate for them. That's, like, a huge thing. I'm a big fan. I think that there are people who just have, like, if you want to play something out of the Games Workshop game, you have to advocate for it. But it's wild. It's still wild to me where there's these incredible games, these incredible experiences that are really awesome, have really easy buy-ins. And people are, like, very on playing them. They're like, I'd rather play Warhammer 40k. You don't like Warhammer 40k. I hear you complain about Warhammer 40k all the time. But people have bought into the game. People have, they've got these large purchases in it. And it's tough, you know? And they just want to continue to play the game that they know a lot about. And Warhammer 40k is one of those games where it kind of takes up a lot of brain space. Sometimes in my more cynical hours, that's why I think that they have all these sub-factions, all these granular rules, all these different, like, stratagems and stuff like that. Like, it's all by design to keep you thinking about Warhammer 40k. Like, Warhammer 40k is sort of designed to be a game that has depth. And I say this every single stream. I say this. Warhammer 40k is the size of an ocean, but has the depth of a paddling pool. It looks like there's tons of options. It looks like there's tons of sub-faction rules, but they all boil down to the same stuff. It's just a lot of guff to try and get there. There's not a lot you can actually do at the table that really matters that much. But it's a fun game to think about. There's a lot of stuff to think about. There's a lot of numbers that need to be crunched. And so that's what people do. They, like, build lists and stuff. They like to build lists and go, okay, well, that's not happens tonight. But ultimately, every single game turns out to be the same way. At least in my experience, anyway. But it is tough, Patties. It is very tough. I wish you luck. One of the things that you can do is just see if you can get, like, the game store on board with it, because I'm sure some of them want to move some stock of stuff. So sometimes that can really help. Honestly, I find as well that a lot of game store owners designers are kind of like, what would be the word for it? Because they're hobbyists too a lot of the time, right? Like, I don't think you get into you don't run a hobby store without being a bit of a hobbyist, and they know the state of the industry. And more often than not, Games Workshop kind of screws over a lot of stores, so many of them are like, are open to the idea of another game taking off at their store. Pathfinder was Paizo. Privateer Press did Popular Paint, though. Really? Didn't Privateer Press do, like, D&D 3.5 books? Didn't they? Am I wild here? I know that they had their own brand of paint, but am I wrong? Rom Dan says it's designed to be addictive. More than that, I mean, the actual, obviously, so, like, the release schedules are designed to kind of, like, oh, you gotta buy this new thing, especially for Space Marine players. But even, like, the releases are relentless. There is news for Warhammer every single day. There's always something new to be talking about for Warhammer 40k. Which, I mean, like, on the one hand, I shouldn't be talking about this, really. Because there's a little bit of a parasitic relationship for me, right? And for all content creators in Warhammer. That's why people don't really talk about it very often, I think. If there's, like, new releases every single day, that's great. You can, like, make content about that. You can talk about the newest thing, right? It's kind of like YouTubing kind of is like this parasitic kind of relationship with these companies, because the more the company releases stuff, the more I can talk about. It's like easier for me to make content about, right? Like, I have to think about stuff? I have to like read old trial notes? What? Why would I read through the hundreds of pages of like court documentation when I could just talk about the new like release, right? And I do talk about the new releases, but it's really useful for me to be able to talk about the new releases. And that's fine, because Games Workshop want that to be useful. They want to keep people talking about their new stuff. And the more you talk about the new stuff, the more you don't talk about new stuff for other games, right? Like, if there was like a slow month for Warhammer, which I think there should be, I think Warhammer should slow down the release schedule. If there was like a slow month for Warhammer, you might be tempted to buy another game. Because you're like, what am I going to do this month? I think I'll check out, no, nothing new for Warhammer. Like, not even something you would buy from Warhammer, but just something new to talk about, right? If the Leagues of Votan were coming out this month. Imagine if, like, September, the month was just crickets. You go on Warhammer Community, it's just crickets. Just like, boop, 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 just hanging out. And what would happen? You might be tempted to go check out another game, right? You might be tempted to check another game. And that's tough. Sean, thank you very much for the donation. Thank you very much. Says Privateer Press did books for D&D 3.0, 3.5, and now 5th edition. Aha, I knew it. Yes, thank you very much for validating me. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Oh, look, everyone is talking about the latest CW release. The Leagues of Votan, says Mark. Of course it does. Now, this is kind of the problem, right? Because I'm interested in the new release. I am interested in the new release, like in the sense of talking about it. Like, I want to talk about it. And I'm interested in Games Workshop as a company. Because, and ultimately, we have to acknowledge, like, for me as a channel, I'm covering the I like to cover miniature wargaming. And I want to advocate for consumers of miniature war games. But as Paddy's Parlor will tell you, right? It's hard to get anybody talking about anything other than Warhammer, because most people play Warhammer. Most of them do. Like, whenever I do content that is about Warhammer, it gets way more views. Why? Because more people are interested in Warhammer. But importantly, that's because more people play Warhammer. And what that means is that whenever Games Workshop does stuff, whenever they create these exclusives, it touches more people. It affects more consumers. So I have to think about what I prioritize in terms of the topics that I talk about, right? I have to do that. So, you know, like sometimes I'll talk about things like genericization, like in the latest video, which I thought was just a really interesting food for thought video. But apparently people thought that what I was saying in my most recent video was that Games Workshop are gonna die! Games Workshop are gonna die! Oh my god, Games Workshop, Games Workshop are gonna die! Apparently that's what I was saying. Apparently you're not allowed to do videos these days where you just kind of like talk about a topic that you think is interesting, and you just want to speculate about it and just have a bit of a laugh, you know. Yeah. So I do talk about Warhammer a lot on this channel. And to be honest, I do have a lot of interest in Warhammer. But I'm hoping next year when I start to review more games, we start getting a little bit more space for some other games. But it's hard. It is hard, right? It is hard. Games Workshop are coming out with new games every fucking 3 months now these days as well, right? Oh, they don't call them new games. They say it's Warcry, but like it's a new game. It's a massive box. You get like 2 war bands. You get a bunch of terrain. You get a rule book. You know, like it's a new game. It's like a big board game release for Games Workshop. Everybody's talking about it. Oh, what are you going to get in that? What's the terrain like? What's the new special rules for the terrain? Even the skirmish games are not immune to this stuff. Jeffrey says, doesn't constantly releasing items burn out the value of the items since something will be released around the corner? No, it doesn't, because this is all about collecting. This hobby has a lot of collectability in it. It has a lot of collectability, and not all things will appeal to all people, but everybody in the community will be talking about it, right? There's like a new topic of discussion to talk about. Scython says, the deception lies in the mind construct of new release good. Imagine chess bringing out more expensive box sets every year and suing every other creator for using the term king, queen, and pawn. Yeah, no, you're totally right, Scython. You're totally 100% right. And it's the cult. It's this thing called the cult of the new, right? It's the idea that the new thing is good. It's exciting. It's new. It's like, whoa! What I find most often than not, the act of purchasing the new thing is enough to get it out of your system. How many things have you bought, especially based on the back of like a market? Like, you know, this new, like, marketing has come. Like, this is the new box. Many people are going to buy the Leagues of Votan army box. Buy it. And immediately, all that excitement kind of a bit, and then it arrives and you're like less excited about it anymore. Because this hobby has a lot of background work and effort that goes into it that sometimes is not visible until you've got the thing in your hand. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. This box of wonder that I purchased is a couple of sprues. I've got to now do the work of putting it together. And how do piles of shame accumulate? Because of all these broken dreams, you know? Games Workshop 100%, they rely on this. They need you to think that things are quick, accessible, and easy. And they're fun. And they are fun. Like, I love the hobby. I do love the hobby, but there's a ton of work that goes into it. We're like, what? I bought the Warcry box like a month ago, 2 months ago. And I'm just finishing my Horns of Hashu. And I've got the train done. But that's like 2 months. In another month, there's going to be another Warcry box. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's insane, right? Just in time for me to have played, like, one game of the Warcry, and then for the next one to be out. It's really rough. It's really rough. To me, I always liken it to a treadmill. You're just constantly moving. Or, like, it's a Sisyphean task. It's like you're pushing the rock up the hill every single day, and then it rolls back down in the evening. It's endless. It's absolutely endless. There is no end in sight. It's just forever. You will buy the new releases forever. And if you want to see what that looks like in its logical conclusion, look at the Space Marine Codex. Look at the amount of units that have been released for Space Marines over the years. That's what it is. That's what it looks like. Miniature wargaming on YouTube is fast becoming a free advertising service for Games Workshop. Very few mini YouTubers are actually doing hobby content, conversions, painting, etc., says Merc. Yes, 100%. There's plenty of painting. There are lots of conversions, but there is a ton of like what I would classify as just like unboxings. Just kind of like Games Workshop sent me this box, here you go. There's a few people I do watch who review like the latest books and the unboxings. One of the best ones I think is probably Ash Barker at Guerrilla Miniature Games. I think he does a really good job of kind of actually going through the book and just giving you just like a very kind of like, here it is, here's the rundown. I quite like him. And that's fine, and I will say that there's a couple of creators out there who do that and they get a bunch of views, but there's loads and loads and loads of creators who do that and they don't. Because there's not a ton of value in it. It's not like adding anything to the conversation, really. It's just like, here's an unboxing. Like, okay. Like, I kind of like watching unboxings, but most people, like, don't really. And I think that's good. I think that is good. But people are afraid, I think, to criticize Games Workshop because you do burn bridges. You burn a bridge with Games Workshop when you do that, and you've like locked yourself. I mean, I've locked myself out of the biggest miniature war game company in the world. Thank you very much for the donation there, Rotherick. I really appreciate that. Here's some cash for the CPU fund and encouragement to talk about other games. Thank you very much, Rotherick. I will 100% be putting that towards CPU, and also I will be thinking about more games and talking about them in future for sure. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, so, people are afraid of criticizing Games Workshop too much because it will burn bridges with Games Workshop. Like, I couldn't sign an NDA with Games Workshop. They wouldn't sign one with me if I wanted to. And I can't afford to buy Games Workshop boxes. I can't afford to buy Games Workshop boxes. I run a YouTube channel talking about miniature wargaming. I can't afford to buy the Games Workshop releases. Right? I just can't. They're too expensive. They price me out of the hobby. Like, they price me out. Like, all my current, from the money the channel brings in, like, I can't afford to buy them. So that's insane. Like, that's insane. I can't cover them. So it makes sense to me that if you're doing this as a job, like, you will need to sign an NDA. you'll need to sign an NDA. But it's kind of insane that Games Workshop kind of have this power, you know? And that's what people are afraid of. People aren't like, I don't think people give like Games Workshop like good reviews, or they're not like paid off in product to do so. I think people are just afraid of losing access to future products, because it really does lead to more content. It leads to more content being able to get these boxes and stuff like that. But on the channel, I've never really done like unboxings, not like Warhammer stuff. I used to do like way back in the day, I used to do product reviews of like the Batman minigame stuff, like way back when, which I might actually start to unlist now, because I don't think it's like reflective of what the channel's about. And I've gotten people every so often who like join the channel and they're like, where's all the Batman stuff? And I'm like, dude, I don't cover Batman anymore. Partly because I don't play the game much anymore. It's still the game that I try to get games in of, and I play it probably more than any other skirmish war game. But I just don't get the time to play games much anymore. Game Master Hobby says, hey Discourse, thank you for the live stream. Perfect Hobby Sunday. Privateer Press released an RPG, Iron Kingdoms. They published an amusing RPG kingdom called Witchfire Trilogy. Recommend it. Well, thank you very much, Game Master's Hobby. I'll have a look into that. Girl Painting says, I've done unboxing in the past. People don't crave them as much as painting tutorials. I agree with that, Girl Painting. See, so here's my my other little, this is like not a secret anymore, because I keep saying it every stream. I absolutely love unboxings. I actually really enjoy them. It kind of like, it like triggers something in me, like in my little primitive, like consumerist, like brain, you know, like the cave woman inside Discourse. I'm like, whoa, me like box, me like open box, me like little minis. Yes. It like triggers something in me. It's like an ASMR kind of response. I just like to watch people opening boxes of like stuff and like going like, oh, look at this stuff, and I go, yeah, look at the stuff, oh yeah. It gives me like a similar thrill that I get whenever I actually buy something for myself, and I just enjoy that. But yeah, like I don't think that like there's a big market out there for it. And the barrier to entry is kind of low, right? You just need to buy a product, put a camera in front of the box, and go, here's the stuff I bought. So, like, anybody can do it. So, like, I don't even have, like, anybody that I really watch for unboxings either. I just kind of watch them as I see them, you know? You have to have a real winning personality, I think, for me to be like, you're the unboxing guy. You're the guy I go to for the unboxings. Rebel Discourse says, Gene. Yeah. Oh, 100%. I am a rebel. I am trapped in the underground. Like, pretty 100%. Tarmanel says, I've always found it funny that GW marketing got it to me. It's been the minor market sometime after 2002, and I started reading books and looking up info on the internet. Wow, old word sounds great. Yeah. Dingo says, yes, mate, I have a few kilos, just invested in the new 4K resin printer. Very nice there, Dingo. Dingo, I will say, whenever, I don't know if this is your first time with a 3D printer or not, but 3D printing to me, whenever I got a 3D printer, it felt like one of the most revolutionary things I've ever done, which is probably like a really sad thing to do, sad thing to say, right? But like it felt like I had sort of freed myself of needing to rely on companies to produce models that I like. That suddenly I had the power to create the amount and the style of minis that I wanted. Like even at the end of the day, I could cast off my shackles and like kind of sculpt models, right? It was like this sudden I could mod my own wargaming. And like you could always kit bash, but I was never really good at that kit bashing. And there was just the imagination. Like you were entering this marketplace filled with artists who were able to just sell directly to you. It felt, oh my god, so revolutionary. And I remind myself every so often of how incredible that feels. Thank you very much for the donation, Sean. Joke among my friends. We would rather our kids take up smoking than Warhammer. It would be cheaper. Might even be healthier. Probably not healthier, but I will say this much. I'm always reminded, I don't know if anybody here has seen Cracker, the awesome British TV show, but there is a line in that where the guy, Fitzwilliam's wife, he is a psychologist who works for the police, and he identifies like serial killers and stuff like that, and it's the old classic crime drama thing, right? Fitzwilliam, he's like an alcoholic, he is a gambling addict, and it's the gambling that's the worst bit, and his wife says to him at one stage, I wish it wasn't gambling. I wish that you were addicted to like heroin. I wish you were addicted to like something else. Something that's really dangerous for your health. Because at least that would kill you if you did it too much, and there would be an end to the money problems. But with gambling, it just takes and takes and takes forever. Forever and ever. There's no stop to it. That is Warhammer. That is Warhammer. It just takes and takes and takes forever. Like there'll be no end, you know? The addiction never ends. Colin says, I adored Kings of War when I found it. What does Discourse think of the big red book? I'm actually looking to pick up the... I need to look at the pricing of it, but I saw that they were doing a consolidation of Kings of War. Of course, created by... it was Alessio Cavatore. Is he the author of the newest one? Is the newest edition as well? Because I know he was the original. He created the first Kings of War. Is he still working on Kings of War? Is it still him? Because I haven't read the most recent Kings of War rules. I didn't really follow the most recent ones, but I'm thinking about picking up the new book because it's basically like the consolidated Kings of War rules. Man, I keep looking at my Empire or thinking of them because they're not here, but I keep thinking of my old Empire army, and I'm like, I need to get it going. I need to get it going again. Maybe I'll play some Kings of War. Kaido says, I want the power of the 3D printer. I think I could manage the cost now, but I'm still so worried about the setup ventilation. Kaido, that was the thing that kind of kept me away from 3D printing, was the kind of worry about like the health effects and stuff. What I will say is that, like, yeah, that is it's a legitimate concern. It's a legitimate concern. I think it's like the big thing that's holding back 3D printing right now. And ultimately, I mean, it does give off toxic fumes, so you just need to, like, it's something you're gonna need to figure out, like, how to get it ventilated and stuff. There are solutions out there. It's just, but it's awkward. You know what I mean? It's awkward. No, the dream for me would be to have a shed in a back garden. Imagine having a garden. Would be to have a shed in a back garden and have 3D printers there and go out to the 3D printers. That would be really cool. So, that's like what I'm dreaming of. But where I had it before, where I lived in my apartment, I had it on, like, the balcony. But it's like, it wasn't like an outside balcony, it was like an inside balcony that was kind of outside. It had like a roof and stuff. It was, you know, and basically I could let things 3D print there. It was out of the sunlight, and that was good. In my, like, current, I can't use the 3D printers here at my parents' house because there's just nowhere for it to go. Plus, I wouldn't want to have a conversation with them. Like, I'm making my little toy soldiers. Also, by the way, stay away from it. It'll kill you. Stay away from it. I don't want to have that conversation with my parents. So I haven't 3D printed like almost anything. I've 3D printed a couple of stuff, but like it's been pretty rare. I'm itching for more. I did some One Piece rule stuff. I did a bunch of what was it? What was it? What was the recent release? I did a bunch of demons, actually, which I've got right here. I did a bunch of demons. Ooh, you can see them inside the box. They're inside the box. I did a bunch of demons. That was fun. Oh my god, where did this go now? It's just a box of minis! Okay, there we go. That was really fun. So I did get some of that done, but I mostly haven't. Death to the Grey says, I have to wear a mask because I started coughing up a little blood. Okay, so not a joke. You should go visit a doctor. I know we all laugh about eating resin and stuff, but like if you're coughing up blood, like go see a doctor for sure. Go see your GP. That's very bad. I don't think that would be necessarily 100% 3D printing either. And everybody, by the way, needs to wear a mask when they're 3D printing. Like everybody needs to wear a mask, and like a proper mask, not like a paper tile mask. I'm talking like a full, do I have mine around here? No, a full ventilation one. In my 3D printing video about how easy it is, I do mention that, and I show you the mask that I wear that type. Wow. Okay. Dingo says, I used to work in the film industry as a model maker for many years. To be honest, scratch building is one of my greatest joys. That's really cool. That's really awesome. That's actually it's a very neat background. Yeah, for sure. I was always bad at scratch building. I was just always bad at it. And funny enough, like my first army was going to be a huge scratch built army for my Imperial Guard, using a bunch of like World War II like tanks and stuff with like kind of like mixed with Lehman Russ things. I was trying to use like the chassis and stuff. I thought that was gonna be really cool because my Imperial Guard army was originally like a sort of like 20th century kind of power level army that then came across an STC that had like the las guns and stuff. So it was like fitted on. Was my original plan, and then I never did it because scratch building is really hard. Scython says, for me, it's projects in the back of my head. To play wargaming was my motivation from the start. I didn't want to get good at painting. I just happened to enjoy it. I absolutely love. So the thing that for wargaming that I really love, honestly, I kind of like. There's like loads of stuff I love about it, and like every so often it will change like my priority. I really, honestly, maybe that's just because I've been playing a bunch of 5 parsecs from home. I love the stories. Like I love coming up with like backgrounds and stuff for my characters and things. I think that's like so much fun, and thinking about the context they live in. Even with Warhammer, like always my favorite stuff was like making up backgrounds. I always play custom chapters. I play custom regiments. I play my Beastmen are like a completely custom army. My Sisters of Battle were the same. My Imperial Guard, I just told you about it. It was like a completely custom kind of like idea. I've never played like I Am the Blood Angels, right? I just never did that. Not even my Dark Eldar. My Dark Eldar, like a warlord, like he's got a vibe going on, you know? Like there's like a sort of thing that I like to play. But yeah, so that's what I loved about Warhammer, and I do feel like the game's kind of moving away from that a little bit. Scython says, normally I wouldn't start a Demon's Army for wargaming, but I am thinking about starting a variant of Diablo Hack and Slay on the 1PH rules. Demon Range is amazing. Yeah, no, I think they're great, and they're coming out with more and more and more. I think it's absolutely fucking fantastic. I think it's really good. Colin says, Alessio did first edition, but was not involved in second and third, but the base he built is there. Okay, thank you very much for yeah, because I thought that, Colin. I thought I never heard anything about Alessio working on those. I've invested in the proper mask now. I need the printer in the shed, says K Leo. Yeah, well, that is that's like you're kind of missing like at least a half of it, right? At least a half of it. But hey, you know, I mean, you're getting there. You're getting there is the thing. That's the important part. You're like halfway there. It's like whenever you've based a model, or like whenever you haven't based it yet, you haven't painted it yet, but you've like primed it a little. Maybe you've thought about priming it. You're thinking about buying primer. You put it together. You've assembled the model. Death of the Great says I have a real filter mask and it was just a little red. It could have been in the smoke from the forest fires too. I don't know, but definitely don't want to play around with these for. Yeah, they're serious. It's really serious. It's chemicals that are in manufacturing and stuff. They're very dangerous. They are toxic. You do not want to kid around with them. And this is why 3D printing right now I think is still incredibly niche. Because to be honest, people don't talk about 3D printing like it's a hobby. Guys, 3D printing is not like a hobby on itself. And this is like, I don't know where the hell. I think it's mostly people who haven't 3D printed say this. It's like a hobby unto itself. If you want it to be, I guess. But it's not really. I find 3D printing no more difficult than 2D printing. Actually, I find 2D printing more awkward. I don't think I've ever been able to get a 2D printing worker. A 2D printer working. 3D printing to me was literally plug and play. I got a 3D printer in. I can't remember. I have 3D printers. I got my first one, and it was just on a USB stick. And I literally used default settings and everything. I download the STL files. I put the STL files in the program. I kind of shave it a little bit. I move it up a little bit, and then I just follow like a YouTube guide on that. And then I print it using normal files. And honestly, like, I have like 95% of my models, 98% of my models all come out looking fine. It's not, I don't know if my experience is like exceptional here, but it was fine. Robo Discourse! Oh my god, it's happening. Exterminate! Exterminate! Is that it? Is it doing it? Is it doing good? And destroy! Damn it, why am I screaming at your command? Shouldn't I be like asking for super chats or something for this? Am I still Robo? So I don't want to say anything until like the Robo goes away. Am I still like a Robo Discourse? I mean, I guess it makes sense. This is me. Every single time I talk about 3D printing, they come for me. They try to shut me down. Malcolm says, Discourse turned the voice changer off. The reptile came out. Yes, you've caught me. Oh no! Ike strikes again. Kyleo says, I thought it was just on my end. I was trying to turn it off and on again. No, don't turn it off and on. It's fine. It's me. That cleaned the Robo out. Back to normal. Okay, thank you very much, I thought. Grey Fox says, didn't you just say you barely print anything, though? Oh, like, I barely print anything, like, while I've been at my parents', but before that, I I was printing a lot. I was printing a lot. Printed the Sisters of Battle army. I printed out a bunch of Lizard Man. I printed out a bunch of Beast Man. I've printed out like a ton of. I've printed a bunch of like terrain out as well. That I'm thinking now. I think I might need an FDM printer because I don't really like the resin terrain that I've printed out. But I printed out a lot. Basically, I printed out a lot. Like a bunch of it's in storage. I've printed out quite a lot of stuff, but recently I haven't. But when I say recently, I mean like when I've been in my parents' house, because you know I can't. But I'm planning on getting back to some more 3D printing as soon as I can, for sure. Will Robot for Super Chat, says Jazz. Yeah, 100%, right? That cleared the robot out. What do you think of 3D printing 10mm versions of regular wargames for portability and storage, says Logan. Okay, so this is like, basically, you're asking me there, is like, what do I think about 10mm? I mean, specifically of your, like, question of, like, what I think about 10mm versions of regular wargames for portability, I'm guessing, like, 28mm games, usually. You're printing it down at 10mm instead. I think that's very clever. Like, I do think it's a very clever idea. It's like, oh, well, I can't, like, carry this thing. I'm just gonna, like, print them down real small. Real weirdly. Ha! I think that is cool. I think that's a cool idea. No, but it kind of takes you to enjoy 10mm gaming, which I think is a different experience from 28mm gaming. And I'm not sure I would enjoy 10mm gaming as much. And it's kind of oddly, it's just something about I don't know, I just really like the models. I think 28mm is just the right size. I don't know though. I don't know. I've never played a 10mm game. As always, I think this is like a blind spot for me. I think I'm just prejudiced. I think this is like a horses for courses thing where, like, I don't like 10mm games because I've only ever played 28mm games. I think I'm like as bad as I'm a Warhammer player. Oh my god, I'm a Warhammer player, guys. I'm like, I just want to play Warhammer. I'm a D&D player. I'm trying to think of what else do people not like to try other things of inside those marketplaces because they only play the one thing. I don't know. I'm that person, basically. So maybe I should try some 10mm. I saw some really cool minis from Dark Alliance games, I want to say, that were like 15mm that I'm sort of tempted by. Now, I will say that I think that the painting experience is worse on 10mm. I think that people prefer to paint 28mm miniatures. I think, let's pull out my Beast Man. Like, ooh, kind of dusty, actually. I need to get a glass cabinet. If you look at the Beast Man, oh, maybe you can't actually. This is my problem. I don't have the lighting. I need, like, a little light that I can turn on. My Beast Man has, like, a lot of stuff going on. There's, like, a lot of little details to paint on him. And, like, that's cool. And I think that people really enjoy painting all those little details. But at 10mm, it's kind of more like a gloop of colors, you know? It's kind of like a gloop of colors. And I think that 10mm might be superior for actual gaming in terms of scale, but in terms of like the setup and the hobbying side, which to be honest, takes up more time, and is more effort than the actual gaming side, I think maybe it might be inferior. But I'm not 100%, like, this is me just kind of talking. This is me just speaking nonsense with you casually down at the pub. I'm not 100% on that idea. I'm just saying what I think, because I've thought about the 10mm gaming, and I just do think that maybe, like, the actual painting side of things won't be as interesting, because it's just, there's not as many details. It's hard to get into the details. That blasted Samaflange says, what do you think the opposite of generic? I make non-humanoid minis for 5 parsecs in Space Station Zero and such, and it's hard to get noticed. I suck at marketing. That sounds pretty cool, actually. That sounds really cool. Now, that said, you're gonna have a really hard time if you're making non-humanoid minis. I'm actually finding it hard to imagine what you're talking about. So if you wouldn't mind, shoot me an email at discourseminiatures@gmail.com, because I'm curious as to what you're talking about. Non-humanoid, like, like monsters and stuff, like wildlife and things like that, because that sounds kind of neat. Look, here's the thing. This is the thing of, like, miniature wargaming generally. This is true for all sides of the miniature wargaming hobby. It is really hard to get noticed. Companies spend a lot of money on marketing for a big reason. It is really hard to, like, find an audience and get people excited about your product, because I mean, like what we were talking about earlier, most people are just playing Warhammer, right? Most people are playing Warhammer. It's really hard to get their attention away from anything else. And if you're trying to sell like models specifically for another game, that's tough, right? And it's why we're seeing, I think, what would be the word for it? I think I was trying to come up with the word for it. It's like there's a lot of influencer games these days. We're seeing like a ton of influencer games. We have Idols of Torment from Eric. We have obviously Space Station Zero, and we have, you know, from Vince Ventrilla and Uncle Adam. And we have, oh, there's more. There's more. Oh, there's a lot. There's like a ton. There's like a ton. What other games? What other influencer games? There's like a bunch of them. Tabletop Time, I think, have a game coming out as well. I can't remember the name of that off the top of my head, but it's got like an app and stuff. But anyway, so these games that are all influencer games, there's tons of them coming out, because if you are like a YouTuber, if you're like a content creator, if you've got like a little bit of a platform, you kind of have an audience that you can expand your game to, you can like show your game off to, and you're basically marketing for yourself, right? Whereas if you're just like anybody, if you're just anyone, it's really hard to get your game out there. It's hard to get people to look, eyeballs, to actually look at your game. Like, how do you market your game? Like, what, you create a Twitter account? Nobody cares. You go on to, you know, like, no one's gonna, like, you follow a couple of accounts. Like, there's a way to build up a Twitter platform, I guess, but, like, that's tough, you know? You go on Instagram, like, people aren't, like, looking you up, you know what I mean? Like, you have to, like, go out and try and grab eyes. You can do, like, Google search, Google ads or whatever. Like, it's really tough. It's really tough, especially indie games. Typically, the biggest games get out there via word of mouth, but it's really competitive. It's, like, really hard. Like, Joe McCullough has his name on the front of every book, because people know who Joe McCullough is, and they care about that. It's kind of the way, so it's kind of the way I kind of structure my titles and my thumbnails. The titles are designed to, like, get people to care about the topic I'm talking about, right? Like, the whole point of it is, whenever I think of, like, my titles, I always think, like, why would anyone care about this? Like, how do I get people to care about this? How do I get people to spread? How do I get my passion for this to get to other people? And that's really hard for thumbnails and titles. Never mind, you've got, you know, you're making miniatures and you're trying to sell them to other people. So we've got like a bunch of influencers who are coming out with games these days because it's like the easiest way to do so. I think my advice for people who are like interested in making a war game is to make a blog, create like a YouTube channel, try to get yourself out there first, you know, or at least while you're making the game, and like try to sort of get people on board with you, and then you'll be able to get the game out, because it's like really hard just to have a game and get it sold out there. And I'm sure there's plenty of people in the chat who are like working on games or are making games or have thought about making games that are like, yeah, it's really tough. Now obviously what you can do is as well a really easy way to get the word out for your games, and this is gonna sound very self-serving, but it's true, is to send your stuff to content creators that exist. And you don't even have to, like, I mean, firstly, I will say that if you're going to sponsor videos, content creators will need to be paid for it, because they're basically taking time in their schedule. They're taking a lot of, like, time to, like, look into your game and to, like, play your game and to, like, try your game and stuff like that. No, I don't think that, I disagree with the idea of buying reviews, right? Content creators should not be doing reviews of games for payment. Right? This is something like whenever I get contacted by companies and they're like, will you review a game for, and I'm like, no, no, I will not. Like, I'll never review a game for money, right? But I will do content, I will cover topics that involve war games for money. So, for example, the One Page Rules videos, there are sponsored videos that I do for One Piece Rules, where I talk about a topic I'm interested in. I talk about that in the context of One Piece Rules, right? So I make the One Piece Rules the focus of it. So I try to be clever with my sponsored content. But anyway, but even just like sending out games to people gets it known, right? Like, what happened? I showed what? I showed this. I showed Hope Eternal earlier. Why? Because I was sent it. And it's not like I wasn't paid money to do this. I saw it and I was like curious about it and I read it, right? I haven't read the whole book, but it's like, I understand what it is. I've read the blurb. I'm like, okay, I'm interested in that. If you can get like a content creator interested in your product or in your game, that's like really big. That's really big because they'll talk about it. Like, how many people here in chat, Carnivale was like the first time you ever heard about the game? Like, who was it, you know? I talk about Carnivale. I've never been paid a cent by TT Combat, but I talk about the game because I liked it. Because I like the game. So if you can send out like content, like if you can send out like your rulebook and stuff to content creator, for some reason I've spoken with game designers and stuff, like people who like run games, and they're like reluctant to send out games and stuff. They're like reluctant to do it without the guarantee of like a review. Don't do that. Don't do that, because no content creator is going to just make a review for free product, because your product, unfortunately, to a content creator is a prop. It doesn't have like a crazy amount of value to them, you know? Especially like, I mean, I've got a lot of games I'm playing. If someone comes to me and they're like, can you play a game? I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't really have the time. So like, you've got like, if I'm really into it, like, I'll try and make time. You know what I mean? Or if I'm paid to, I will make time because that's what you're paying for. But what I will say is that if someone gets excited about your game, like, that's really good, because they will talk about it. Like, I talk about the games because I'm passionate about stuff, and I talk about the stuff that I'm passionate about. I bring up Hope Eternal because I'm interested in it. You know what I mean? I bring up Carnivale because I'm interested in it. So send stuff out. Send stuff out to content creators. You never know. One of them might like it. And content creators aren't like, they're people, you know what I mean? Like, they're not like remote. They're not like crazy off on the hill somewhere. Like, you can email people, and they'll read your email. They will, or it might get lost. Like, sometimes spam and stuff picks it up and stuff like that. But email them. Worst thing that happens is that you never hear back. That's the worst thing that'll happen. You'll never hear back from them. Send your stuff out, though, to content creators, and that's like, to me, like, guys, anyone who's interested who needs their game marketed, send your stuff out to content creators. Content creators might come back to you with a price to guarantee coverage. They might not, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to try. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt to try. Because, to be honest, like, I find new stuff every single day. Every single day. There's something new. I'm like, wow, look at this thing. And it's really hard to get your game out there. It's really, really tough, for sure, on your products. So, you know, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. Bruva says, what are thinking about Tabletop Simulator on Steam? I love Tabletop Simulator. It's really good. I stream Arkham Horror, the living card game, on stream using Tabletop Simulator every, next Wednesday I'm going to be playing a game with Midgeman. We're going to be going through the tutorial, the Night of the Zealot. We're going to go through the tutorial. We're going to teach how to play the game and stuff, so join me for that. It's going to be like 7 p.m. BST, British Standard Time, or summertime. I don't know, UK time. It's gonna be 7 p.m. So check that out at twitch.tv/Discourse Games. I'm a big fan of Tabletop Simulator. I think it's really, really good. Plus, one of the really nice things is it lets people play games, try games, before committing to it, which is really important. Which is super important. It, like, brings demo games from conventions to your home. This is really good. There's some companies out there that are really afraid of Tabletop Simulator that try to shut down the mods, which is the dumbest thing ever, because I have bought so many games off the back of having played it on Tabletop Simulator and going, I actually really like this game. I think that consumers should be able to try games before they buy them, and I think that being able to try them digitally is really great, especially for tabletop games. I don't know why the hell companies are afraid of people playing their game digitally, because most people want to play games physically anyway, and they'll buy the physical products even if they only play it digitally. Honestly, there's like Corvus Belli have Infinity tournaments that run through Tabletop Simulator, and I guarantee you, every single person who is playing competitively on Infinity on Tabletop Simulator has a collection of Infinity models that they otherwise might not have had. Like, I don't worry, no game is ever going to die because it gets spread too much on Tabletop Simulator. Good God. Anyway, sorry, that's just like a little, you just niggled into a little bugbear for me there. But yeah, like, it's really hard. It's very cutthroat industry, like, for sure. It's very niche, very competitive. It's really hard to make it. It's really hard to make it. Garzini says, Rain in Hell from CM, yeah. Death to the Grey says, EZD6. Buy it. I've never heard of EZD6. Never heard of it. Romdan says, so my idea for a war game with no humanoid characters at all isn't going to sell. Oh man, says Romdan. Yeah, like, to be honest, like, that's going to be a tough sell. That is going to be a tough sell. There'd have to be a really good pitch. You'd have to really pitch that one to me. Putty Party says, Gorilla has Blaster Magazine and has a mech battle game. Yes, yeah, Ash Barker has a War Dogs, or, oh god, what is it called? See, this is why I don't try to talk about these games, because I just forget them all. There's so many games. There's too many. It's been hard for me. I've been streaming art and not using appropriate hashtags for a year, but it's not ready for a full release, so I've been plugging away on art since the rules are pretty solid. The thing I will say, Patty Potter, is the thing to do is to think about someone who might potentially buy your game, and think about why they would buy your game. Like, no one's going to just buy your game. Like, you've got to think about what it is about your game that will get people interested in it, what makes them want to play your game. That's like how you sell it, you know? That's what you gotta really think about. And what's exciting about, what does it do differently? RV Diamond, thank you very much for the donation, says, the MDF terrain for Carnivale is awesome too. Okay, so, alright, real stuff. I haven't bought any of the MDF terrain for Carnivale because I'm a poor girl, but like, yeah. Oh yeah. The Carnivale terrain is looks absolutely incredible. UKGE, they had a bunch of tables out that were fully done with the Carnivale terrain. Oh my god, so good. It looks so good. It really does. My problem with not Carnival, my problem with MDF terrain is like you got to put it together and paint it. That's my problem with all terrain though, because I hate putting together and painting terrain. It's really tough. Dingo says, how much is it to sponsor a creator? Honestly, it'll just depend. It'll depend on the creator, and it will depend on what they are like doing. Like, for example, it'll cost you more if you want like a full video done, likely, or there's people who just do integrations where it's just like literally like an ad in a video will probably cost you less. So it just depends, you know. First I heard about Carnivale was from you, says Dingo. Yeah. I mean, I like to talk about games that I enjoy. This is like my big secret. This is my big secret. People are like, Discourse miniatures, so negative. Absolutely insufferable. Only ever hits in Games Workshop. Goes on to my video. People, so I keep on getting told, like, so apparently all I do in my videos is say Games Workshop is dying, which if anyone who watched the content know that's not the case. I talk about games I love all the fucking time, but, you know. Anytime you're not speaking well of, like, Warhammer, it's apparently a big problem. Kay Lio says, I figure for the games I'm working on, I have to find motivation to do it, primarily for the love of it and sharing it with friends, and if it goes further, then wonderful. Yeah, no, that's a good attitude to have, you know? Definitely. I think, like, making a good game first, and then worry about everything is definitely a way to go, like, for sure. Thank you very much for the email blast, Sama Flanch. Greg Knight Gaming says, Neil from Real Terrain Hobbies is releasing a good-looking MDF blacksmith building and terrain. Ooh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. Patty Sparta says, the game will be a pay what you want. I make them because I love it. The realistic goal is to have a sweet game to play with my wife. Best case scenario is doing yearly expansion scenes. Yeah, so, like, I mean, and also, that's another thing. It's, like, really hard to make it as well. It's really hard to, like, monetize and sell your game if you're not Warhammer. If you're, not one of the big companies, it's actually really hard to make money in this industry. Dingo says, airbrushes are also a great investment, especially for terrain. See, I don't have an airbrush. I have nowhere to paint, like, with an airbrush. I got nowhere to paint with an airbrush, so I don't have an airbrush. I'm stuck with, like, my little... Stuck with this thing. What kind of terrain am I gotta paint with this thing, huh? The hell? What am I gonna paint with this? I gotta paint like a door? Like, over 3 years? Like, God. No. What I painted, so the Warcry terrain was painted with sprays. Like, you know, sprays, primer sprays and stuff. I decided just to do it, like, try and get as dirty Zenithal highlighted as possible. And it worked. It came out surprisingly well. I like really struggle with terrain. It's really tough as like someone who plays a variety of games, like as a variety gamer. It's like really tough because I need like fantasy terrain, I need sci-fi terrain, I need modern terrain. I just need terrain for like all these different contexts, and they're not always forthcoming. They're not always forthcoming. It gets really tough, for sure. And I don't know about everybody else. I personally, I had like a sort of, I think I was trained by Games Workshop like a dog. I had this like dislike of MDF terrain because I sort of felt like plastic was superior. But over time, I have definitely softened that stance, and I've been playing with a lot more. I think it comes from playing with more MDF, and you realize that ultimately, most of what terrain does is block line of sight. That's kind of what most of terrain is useful for. And it's like, why are you spending so much money on terrain that, like, serves such a sort of minor gameplay impact, you know? Now, admittedly, like, I think that miniature wargaming is massively aesthetic. It's one of the things that actually turns me off War Machine. I know they've changed it now for 4th edition, but with War Machine, the terrain was 2D. And it's the same thing with A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game. The terrain in that is 2D. And that's great from, like, an accessibility perspective. And you can, like, the A Song of Ice and Fire minis, they have all the terrain you'll need in the starter box. I think they're really useful. But, like, it's all 2D, and it's like, you know, it just doesn't look as good. It just doesn't look as good. And I think there's actually a little bit of an element of that's partly to blame for War Machine's failure, is the fact that the terrain was kind of rubbish. And A Song of Ice and Fire, I think, isn't as popular as it could be because the terrain, there's not like these big grand tables that look really good on a YouTube thumbnail. And, you know, like, I mean, there's no, like, Zorp, A Song of Ice and Fire, and, like, a wargaming table. Not that he would do one, I don't think. I don't think he really likes it. He's more of a token boy. He's a token boy, old lackey. But, I think that's like partly one of the reasons why those games aren't as popular. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because that actually makes the games like really cool, really fun to play, really accessible. The Song of Ice and Fire boxes are like very cheap for what they are, and they come with everything you need. They come with the rulebook, they come with all the terrain you need, they come with like basically an army of models. But yet, here we go, you know? And the gameplay is really fun too. Girlpenny says, hey Discourse, what would you think about games based on PC games like the Dark Souls board game, but a fully fledged war game instead? Do you think that could have a future? Well, what PC game are you thinking of? Because I'm waiting. Where's my Command & Conquer game? Where's my Command & Conquer war game? Where is it? Like, I wanna fight. I wanna say, in the name of Cain! And then I wanna move my non-acolytes forward. And I wanna open fire on the GDI scum. You know, I wanna get my tech tank. I want it to deploy into the ground. I want my devil's tongue to go underground and come up and go fire everything. You know, and I want to scream, Cain lives in death, peace through power. That's what I want to do. I want to do that. But still, nope, not here. I still not allowed that. Or, come on, a regular game. I want to play the Soviets. I want to fight the Allies. It's so good. It writes itself, you know? Paul Greer says, thank you very much for the donation. $5 donation, thank you very much. I've been collecting since 1987. GW, wow, that's OG. I really like to convert and build my armies. I got my start in Space Hulk. You need to try Space Hulk. Love your show. Thank you very much, Paul. I'm so glad to hear that you enjoy the show. I really do appreciate that. Really appreciate the kind words. Really appreciate the donation. Space Hulk, huh? So that I have not played Space Hulk. I have not played it. Or if I have, it didn't like leave a brain impression. I think I played it once, but I don't know if that's like my experience or I've just watched that advert for Space Hulk that's on YouTube from the 90s so many times that I've just invented a memory that I played in. I don't know. And I have played it on the PC game, but I didn't really like it. But I think that's partly to do with the fact that it was like a PC game. It's not the same, you know. One game I've been looking for. I've been hunting this down, guys. I've been hunting this down. If anybody has it, let me know. I really want the Aliens game. The board game Aliens. Because it looks like that's a very similar game to Space Hulk. Where there's like the blips and they're coming for you and you don't know where they are. I can't find this game anywhere. It's been discontinued. And I can't find it. And it's like, oh, it's like my white whale. I've been to game stores and they have like tons of expansions for it. And I'm like, do you have the main game? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, no, not again. But I don't think that has because correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but the Space Hulk has the sort of mechanics where you're trying to like figure out who goes first and who goes second. Like it's really important how you line up your dudes because the hallways are so thin and stuff. I don't think Aliens has much of that. George Askin says, I want a mammoth tank for Imperial Guard. Mammoth tanks are cool. Yeah, mammoth tanks are cool. I mean, what is a mammoth tank? But basically a beam blade, right? Like a beam blade, but with 2 turrets. I'm actually surprised. Games Workshop have never done a 2-turret. No, they did the Predator las cannons have got two turrets. Dingo says, the one tool I have had for over 30 years is a color wheel to show color contrast. That's really cool, actually. Demon says, yes, I want to make a Command & Conquer army, mind control my opponents, and Hulk bomb their base. You want to play Yuri? No way. On my table, I'd be like, no Yuri. No Yuri at my table. No, thank you. George says, got one comes with aliens, predators, and marines. Damn, that's pretty cool. Potty says, I think I saw a copy at one of my local stores here. I'll send you a message if I see it. Yeah, please do, Potty. Actually, I will be curious about that one. Garcia says, I have the base game and the expansions. How is it, Garcia? Are you enjoying the game, or do you like it, do you not? The Bust Flange says, the Aliens game was only a very limited run. Mechanically, it's fun, but short and doesn't have a lot of replay value, I feel, scenario-wise. That's disappointing here, because I really like the idea that there's, like, the ammo deck, where every single time you fire, you have to, like, discard cards. I think that's like I love little mechanics like that. I love these little tactile mechanics. I really dig those sorts of things where you're kind of making these short-term decisions and they're affecting you long-term. It's like, do I have this advantage now? And it maybe hurts me going down the line. I'm actually a really big fan of that. Except when it comes to potions, I will never drink any potion ever in any game. Don't give me one-time use items. I will just never ever use it, is how I roll. Another glorious day in the core. Can you not get it off the Creator Steamforged games? No, Colin, I cannot. They don't sell it anymore. They don't sell it. It's done. I think it's for copyright reasons. I think they had the rights for a while, and now they've lost them. Logan says, Arabic-style buildings work well for both sci-fi and fantasy games. Actually, you know, I haven't actually ever... I don't think I've ever come across any Arabic-style buildings. I think it might be the lack of MDF being able to support domes. And, like, circuit... Like, it really struggles with those sort of anything but flat surfaces. You have to, like, start adding plastic elements to those. So that's kind of tough to do. But I know they exist. I know they 100% exist. Yes, tactics are a must. Space Hulk is also great to play with friends. I'll try and get a game out of some Space Hulk. Honestly, the opportunity has just never come up. The opportunity is like never sort of. I don't know anyone who has Space Hulk or has played Space Hulk. I've never been given like the opportunity to play it. George says, did a lot of minis for the Alien game. Commission work. Predators were the worst. Wait, were Predators in the Aliens game? Were they? I thought it was just Aliens. Garzini says, only played the first 2 scenarios solo. Really want to play it with some friends. Co-op, it's a fun game, but needs to be played as the full set of missions in one setting. Oh, really? Really? Was it more like a board game then? Because I've seen gameplay of it, but it was like a while ago. I haven't seen it in a while. Girlpain says, I'm thinking about World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Battlefield, Elden Ring. So you're talking about like PC games, more recent PC games. Well, Command and Conquer isn't too far away, but World of Warcraft, whenever I would think World of Warcraft, I think Warcraft 3 more so. I don't know, like, to be honest, Rivenstone seems to be kind of hitting that Warcraft vibe for me. I don't know if I need, like, I feel like Rivenstone kind of does it for me. Guild Wars 2 is interesting. Actually, I played Guild Wars 2 for quite a lot of years. I'm trying to think of what PC games. It's kind of funny because like a lot of my PC games that I like are kind of Warhammer games. I'd like a Dawn of War, please. Can I have that on the tabletop? Is that possible? Company Heroes. So let me think. What games would I tell you? What I would actually kind of like? Age of Mythology. I know it already exists. I know there's like a miniature war games out there that are all about like kind of myths and Greeks and stuff like that fighting each other. But there was something about the style of Age of Mythology that I was just a big fan of. The idea of like Greeks versus Norse versus Egyptians, and I like the art style and stuff. The kind of semi-realistic version of it. That was kind of neat. I did like that. Honestly, I haven't played a lot of games. Like, I don't play a lot of PC games these days. Most of the PC games I play are, like, Vermintide. I play more Arkham Horror on Tabletop Simulator now than anything. What I recently bought was, I got, like, Gamer Pass or something. I got, like, a Gamer Pass gifted to me, because I have Discord Nitro. And, I was able to play, City Empires. It's like a criminal game. You're playing like gangsters and stuff, and that was like a lot of fun. I really would love more games set in like Mad Dogs with guns, you know, like the set in the kind of 30s gangster games. I think that would be really cool. I wish there was more models for gangsters and stuff. I really dig that kind of like the Prohibition era. I'd like to see what I would love to see is a sort of 30s game with like supernatural elements and criminal gangs fighting each other. I'd be a really big fan of that. That'd be really cool, like Necromunda, but in the 30s, and there's like evil cultists and stuff, kind of like a Lovecrafty sort of vibe to it. I think that would be a ton of fun. Did a lot of minis. Oh, yeah. Which Alien game that came out in the 90s was the cardboard characters or the 2010, and I got burnt in the Kickstarter on it? I think it might be the one you got burnt on, Dyslexy Dragon. I think it might be that one, the 2010 one. Bless Hamfly says, the game mechanics are amazing, I admit, but there's not a lot there. Follows a very abbreviated movie storyline. That's kind of a pity, actually. I don't think they should have gone that way. I think that's a bit of a fail on their part. Drat, I have it in my room, says Colin. Ooh. Paul says, I have all 3 versions of Space Hulk. Yeah, because there has been multiple versions, right? Joe says, we might be talking about the Aliens vs Predator game. It was a lot like Space Hulk. Oh, see, I'm thinking of Another Day in the Marine Corps. Garzini says, it is very much a board game with persistent equipment and characters between missions. It does follow the movie quite closely without being able to deviate too much. That's a bit of a pity. Dingo says, my only PC game is Rome Total War. Would you like a miniature war game of Rome Total War, Dingo? I would like a Total War Warhammer, please. Paul says, do you play any of the Total War Warhammer games? Yes, I do. I play them all. I have thousands of hours in those games. I have been playing more Total War Warhammer 3 since Immortal Empire's released. That's pretty good, because I do love me to play some Empire. I actually streamed it on the channel. I streamed that a couple of weeks back. I streamed it, and I stream it every so often on twitch.tv/Discourse Games as well. I stream every so often there. Paddy Parler gotta hop off and get some chores done. Have a good one, Paddy. Enjoy it. Ramdan says, yeah, why every war game should be about war between civilizations. I honestly, I think skirmish games are kind of the perfect place for this, where it's not like one civilization versus another civilization. Instead, it's like factions fighting each other. I think this is what Necromunda gets well, although I think even Necromunda is like too grand. I don't like the house system in Necromunda, where it's like the houses are these big important things. Like whenever my Escher gang was not an Escher gang, it was just a girl gang. It was just like a gang that ran like this like section of the hive, and it was like a very small, it was like basically the equivalent of like a couple of corners, you know what I mean? And I think like a skirmish game where you're playing is like a bunch of different just like the O'Banions, you know, like an Irish mob, Italian mob, but they've also got like supernatural stuff going on too. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think that'd be a ton of fun. That's what I really like about the Batman mini game. It's just a bunch of like supervillains and their gangs fighting each other. It's not like at the level where Marvel's Crisis Protocol is, where it's like, here's the team and they're all supervillains, here's the team of all goodies, and they fight each other. It's like, I'm the Joker, I'm playing as the Joker gang, I got like a goon with an axe, you know? Jay LaFleur says, love your content, Discourse, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you very much, Jay LaFleur, thank you. I really appreciate it, that's very kind of you. That is very kind of you to say. Paul says, Tomb King fan here. I'm playing a campaign right now, a co-op campaign at the minute, playing as Archon the Black. And that's been a ton of fun, because you get like a very interesting mix of Vampire Hunt's forces alongside the Tomb Kings. That's pretty neat. Tomb Kings. They got kind of squatted. No, it's not squad anymore. Is it Bretoniad now? Is that what we're calling it? Mr. Air Pumpkin says, classic, but we're almost in October. I'm sure you're very excited. Mr. Air Pumpkin says, classic Battletech, despite the scale, is technically a skirmish game, or at least it is if you don't want the game to take all week. Yeah, okay, I can appreciate that. Yeah, because, I mean, even the starter set, right, comes with only a couple of mechs. They Go Dundee says, I have a tabletop game made in the 70s called City Fight by SPI in mint condition. I'd like to send you. I bought 2 of them. The one I will send is near new. It's a platoon skirmish game. Oh, wow. Yeah, Dingo, by all means, reach out to me on, like, Discord, or my email is discoursminiatures@gmail.com. That sounds really interesting, actually. Yeah, let's talk. Larkbeard says, this just in, Votan stole a design from 2002's Lego Ice Planet. Hold on. Let me look this up. 2002. Oh my god, he's not wrong. Oh my god, look at this. Okay, guys, I have to show you this. This might go horribly awry. But let's see if we can. Let's see. Can I set this up? Okay, it's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Let's do this. What's it called? Lego Ice Planet. Yeah, here we go. Look at this. Look at it. It's the League of Votan. It's the League of Votan right here. There it is. Oh my god. There it is. Caught. They've been caught. That's wild. Oh my god, there it is. League of Votan. I should have. That is such a random reach. That's an incredible reach. That is a wild one. I can't believe that. Orange chainsaws forever, says Snorbo. We couldn't not, right? We couldn't not. Orange chainsaws. It's incredible. I will say, I do think that the Votan look a little bit better with some of the, with some of the color schemes. I think that the original color scheme is very, very NASA-esque, whereas the like the orange ones look pretty. Oh no, I'm not allowed to say that here. But I think they look a little bit good. I think they look okay. Compared to the sort of regular one. Spurs says, try the new BattleTech Alpha Strike game. It plays much faster than the classic BattleTech. Honestly, I'm okay with a longer game. Like I've played Infinity, and I played like Infinity, not the faster version, like just the proper full scale Infinity, and I didn't mind the length of that game. Like I don't mind like longer games if they're good, if they're engaging. The pacing is good. I think that's what Warhammer gets bad. So Warhammer is like a very long game, but the pacing is really bad because it's like I go, you've got to wait for me to do everything, and then you go, and the only interaction between us is just armor saves. I think that's like a really bad thing. But I'm okay with like games being long, like as a rule. Like not everything has to be as fast as one-page rules. The thing that turns me off BattleTech is honestly, I'm just not really super into mechs. I'm like, I'm not into mechs. To be honest, my favorite thing is guys in suits. That's what I'm into. I'm like really into guys in suits. So that's like, it's kind of like the opposite space. It's like not very armored. I'm a guy with a gun, and I'm relatively terrifying. George Haskin says, I'm painting the Lord of the Rings orcs and Nazi zombies commission work while watching Minder. Very nice. Larpier says, I saw it on Twitter, not on my find. Wow, okay. See, the Twitter can be useful sometimes. Sometimes it can be worth it. Well, it's Lego, so it's no cheaper than Warhammer. Yeah, that's, to be honest, like the price of Lego is wild to me as well. Like I feel sorry for anybody who like is really big into Lego, because it's like very, very expensive too. Can League of Votan get transport orange chainsaws? I'm actually not sure about that. Chainsaws, I'm not sure about that, actually. Dummy Thick Dave, nice, says, I knew there was a reason I liked the Votan. I always wanted that set as a kid. It kind of passed me by. I think that's around the same time that Lego Racer was coming out, right? Like, bam, that game was banging. Remember Lego Racer? That was so good. Lego Racer was rocking. I love that game. Actually, Ice Lego thing can trace back to 1993, I believe, because I got one, says Rotio Blum. Oh, 1993. We're going very old then. Amadillo says, I go, you go, plus stratagems, gotcha cards, in between is a miserable experience. I do agree. It's a really rough gameplay style, and I feel like one of the reasons why it hasn't been changed is because Games Workshop don't want to alienate their community. I think that, like their player base, right? I think we're probably going to see reactions come in for 10th edition, because they seem to have been quite successful in Horus Heresy, so I think we will see that. Midwinter Mitty says, not into mechs, we're done, friendship over. Okay, right, so I know, obviously you love the mechs. I've been watching your Titan videos. You're obviously a huge fan of them, but I'm afraid to say, it's just, I don't know, I have to speak with the heart. I don't know, I'm just not into it. I think it was because I once watched Gundam Z as a young child, and it confused me, and ever since then, it's like, you know, in my subconscious, I'm like, robots are confusing. Giant robots are not too confusing. And so ever since then, I can't handle it. It's too much. I'm worried that someone's gonna monologue at me and then jump off into their mech and fly off into space. It's just, it's too much for me. But I have been tempted a little bit by BattleTech, like here and there. Like I get the idea of how cool they are. I actually really like, there was a video game called Mech Warrior I quite enjoyed, and there was a game called, oh, do anyone remember, God, what was it called? Oh, you played as, it was a police, you were a police robot, you're a police mech. There was like a 1 versus 1 mode, and if you were playing it solo, then there was like it was a PlayStation 1 game. Oh god, it was like Future Cop, and you were like in a robot in that one. That was cool, I like that, but that's like more Dreadnought-y sized than like Knight sized, or like BattleTech kind of like giant robot sized, you know? Wall Street, the game, coming soon. Guys in suits, says Duffy. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, there has to be something else. I mean, it's not just, like, a bunch of guys. I like a good theme. I like my factions to be very thematic and very different from one another, which actually is gonna probably lead me to some stage to talk about miniature agnostic games. I have, like, a lot of thoughts on miniature agnostic games, and not all of them are what you think. So obviously getting the clickbait is going along in my head right now. I'm like, okay. there gonna be a video here. So I've got like a little thoughts on that, but I really love like thematic armies, thematic and like factions and things like that. And I think there's like a lot of space that goes unexplored in miniature war game, because people are afraid of kind of deviating from that kind of Warhammer adjacent vibe and aesthetic. And also, like, a lot of people have been inspired by other war games that have gone before, so we see, like, very similar stuff get made and remade and stuff. I want more Chicago gangsters, okay? Like, where the hell's all my Chicago gangsters? It's kind of a shame that there's nothing like that out there. Lego is only good for the pain you walk on it, says Dingo Dundee. Well, as someone who has collected Dark Eldar for a while now, I will tell you what real pain is. And it is when you are walking to the bathroom and you have left some Kabbalite warriors where they should not belong. Mr. Apkin says, guy with a gun, eh? Heavy gear billets, then it's a game around crisis suit size, mini-max, and pretty much work as big plus infantry on roller skates. Big infantry, what, like the rollers, like you press the button, the little roller skates come out and you can wheel, the wheelies, right? Wheeling around. Castle says, mechs are meh. Ooh. Robin Mankiller says, yay! Gravity Pool or Orbital Operation says, I feel mech games I've tested so far can't manage to capture the experience I'm after. See, I feel like it's kind of like it's actually one of the things that kind of puts me off mech games a little bit, is that I feel like the vibe I would want from a mech game, which might be probably what BattleTech offers, is like the very like this is the gun. This is like the gun, and it's got like, it's like a very granular kind of experience, and it's like this arm has got X hit points and this arm has got X hit points, you know, and like different weapons can get damaged, and I think that's the BattleTech experience, where everything is very granular, it's very methodical, and there's like a lot going on, and the mechs are like really important. As opposed to what I would imagine would be more like the kind of more anime mecha kind of fighting, which would be very cinematic and stuff. I kind of want more towards the Western side than the sort of like the more anime kind of side, I think. Get into the EVA, Discourse, says Larp Beard. And old Daniel says, but try Alpha Strike. It's a macro skill of BattleTech, and it works closer to 40k than anything. You're going the wrong direction there. I don't want it to be more like 40k. I mean, I've got 40k. This is the thing. I have 40k. I don't play Knights. Let me say that much. Painted hundreds of mechs with their support vehicles, aircraft, and infantry commission work. I tell you what, a game that I was interested in, that I was actually put off, was from TT Combat. I think I say this a lot, but it's like the one like 10mm game I'm interested in, so I have cause to talk about it every so often, would be Drop Zone. I think that's got like mechs and stuff in it, and it's like a 10mm game where you like got loads of vehicles and stuff. See, I've always been a fan of like the tanks. Honestly, like my actual favorite like thing to play with in war games is infantry. I like infantry. I like loads and loads of infantry. I've always collected like horde armies and stuff. I collected like heavy weapon teams and with Imperial Guard. Like that's always been the vibe that I have kind of went all in. Try Alpha Strike is macro painted hundreds max. Yep. Yeah, could you imagine a Guild Wars 2 battle with a Char Warband with tanks fight against the forces of Scarlet Briar, which nice on multiple lines. Like I liked Guild Wars 2, but over time it sort of started to lose me. I couldn't keep up with the Living World. It was like too much. It was just too much for me. I would have preferred, I think, more traditional expansion packs, which they then started to do. But by then I'd already kind of fell out of the game because it was like a living story. Although I will say I love the Mesmer, and I wish there was like more models out there in the world that had the vibe and aesthetic that the Mesmers had in Guild Wars 2, because that was just absolutely beautiful. Dingo Dundee says, women in black armor with a big blaster are hot, even better if they have a tank, hence Sisters of Battle. Sisters of Battle get a lot of guff. They get a lot of guff out there. But I actually like the Sisters of Battle. I don't know if this is because I've been like indoctrinated as a youth, as a child, but I mean, the very first army I actually bought into was Witch Hunters, and I bought a bunch of Sisters of Battle, and I like them. Like I like the vibe of them, and I think they fit the Warhammer 40k setting quite a lot. I understand that they're like kind of performative and that there's a lot of problematic imagery and stuff with them, but I vibe with them. I think they look great. I think they look like really cool models. I really like the gothic aesthetic. Not to say that like nuns with guns wouldn't look bad, but they are very exaggerated, right? But I don't know, I like them, and they look like an army that could only exist in the Imperium, and I really like that aspect of them. Many lost grimdark sci-fi robot dudes game back in the day. Yeah. Captain Crank says anime mecha fighting is better covered by RPGs like Mechton Zeta. Well, yeah, it's kind of like sometimes you get like this is what 5 Parsecs from Home has started to make me think about is tabletop RPGs and war games and the crisscross about them, because as we all know, Dungeons and Dragons started as a war game, and I think to this day operates better as a war game with light roleplay elements than as a fully fledged like roleplay game. I think that there are better roleplay games out there, most notably more systems light games, like Call of Cthulhu, for example. If you're looking at like an older system. But Delta Green, I've been reading a lot of Delta Green recently. I've been really looking into Delta Green. I'm a really big fan of it, but I've been doing research for a secret project I'm not allowed to talk about. I'm not allowing myself to talk about. I like to share with you guys, and I have to, sometimes I have to keep myself quiet so that excitement can build. But yeah, I've been reading into a lot of Delta Green, and basically, like, I think those systems, they kind of get out of the way of players a lot more. Or they mechanize, like, roleplay things, like bonds and stuff that you have with other people. Whereas Dungeons and Dragons, I think, like, most of the rules are dedicated to wargaming. They're dedicated to combat. And that's good, to be honest. Like, that's fine. That's fine for a game to be about combat. But people, I think, treat Dungeons and Dragons like it's all things to all people, you know? And that's kind of what the game's trying to be. It's kind of like Warhammer in that way. It's trying to be as popular as it possibly can because it has the biggest market share. Dropstone Commander, Alan says, yep. Mr. Air Pumpkin says, exactly, Healy. You can't stomp as fast as a tank when you're 4 meters tall and you can't fit in a transport, so this is their genius solution for strategic maneuvers. Just make them this is my problem with mechs. Mechs don't do anything. They don't achieve anything that a tank wouldn't achieve with a lower profile. I've never, like, I think that, like, that might be, like, one of the things that I have a problem with in terms of mechs. Like, at its core, I can't get over the idea that, like, a tank would be better. Ever since I played Tiberian Sun, I've been like, why don't they just use tanks? I've never understood. I've never understood it. 5 Parsecs from Home, played first game with kid today. Figure agnostic, 20 figures mats, awesome game. Yeah, Alan, we've actually been talking a lot about 5 Parsecs from Home today. And I've been thinking about maybe doing a video comparing it with Stargrave, or like, not comparing it, but a fun competition between Stargrave, 5 Parsecs from Home, and Space Station Zero, I think I might do. So that's kind of interesting. Dingo says, I have a 5,000 points. This is the battle army, old and new. Very nice. I've been thinking of doing a Witch Hunter army for 4th edition that will have a bunch of Sisters of Battle in it. I'm just going like full classic 4th edition, Sisters of Battle, Witch Hunters. I've been thinking about doing that because I want to see if whether or not my nostalgia for 4th edition is warranted or not. I want to put it to the test, like WoW Classic put it to the test. Turns out WoW Classic is much better than retail WoW. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to lose a bunch of viewers, and I'm not even sorry. I will fight people on this. It is better. I feel so grouchy these days. I feel like I'm old. I feel so old. I feel like God, Eamon, what's his name? The Meister on the wall in a Song of Ice and Fire when he screams, "I've gotten old." That's me every night. I wake up from my nightmares. Brisbane says, "Wait, you do live streams? So will you ever do a painting live stream?" I will, Bart. I will. Okay, so here's the deal, right? I someone very, very lovingly donated money so that I could buy a camera to use in my live streams for painting, and it was very, very kind of them, and I have set that money aside explicitly for that, and I will, as soon as I have like a setup. You guys have seen my hobby table. I showed it off whenever I did the FlexiSpot ad integration in one of my videos. I can't remember exactly which one it was now. That is where I will be hobbying. But not that room. I'll be doing it in a different room. I'm setting up a room for streaming, basically. There, it's like it's my streaming room, which also is like a very small little box room. And I'm going to have that table where, and I'm going to set up like a camera and stuff looking down. I'm gonna paint on stream. I'm going to unbox stuff on stream. Or as I will call them, kind of previews or like first impressions of games, and I'm gonna do that sort of stuff, and I'm really looking forward to it. But that won't be until like maybe towards Christmas. We're gonna start seeing that stuff because I need to like get the room set up and things and get moved and stuff. So I will be doing that. And I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, you can watch me badly paint. I don't know why. I stream a lot on Twitch.tv and there I will also be painting and stuff, I think. Ryan says, Mazes, Slayers, Easy D6. We live in a wonderful time. We really do. I mean, like, there's a ton of games out there. Absolutely ton of them. And it's great for us. Like, it's great for players. Like, there's so much variety out there. I think, Brent, Goobertown Hobbies, he did a video recently on all of the, like, the games that exist that he saw at I think it was at a Nova Open, or was it Adepticon? But he basically talked about all the different games that he saw, and it's just, there's so many. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. I think I think it's a fantastic time to be a gamer. I'm absolutely loving it. But it must be said, mostly in like the indie scene and stuff, you know. Ramdan says, shh, don't talk about tanks and your mechs fanatics. It drives them mad. It is the central question of every mech game. I'm like, oh, so why are we using tanks? And like, you see faces go red. Someone picks up a piece of MDF train and throws it to the ground and says, well, if that's your attitude, I'm out. Leaves, storms out of the room. I'm like, I'm sorry, I wanted to know. Well, if that's how you're gonna behave, I'm done. I'm sorry. Dingo says, I have even scratch built space sailing ships from 172 scale Viking ships. They are called Sacred Solar Ships of Virtue. Very cool. Cryptcrank says, heavy gear addressed the tank issue pretty thoroughly. On open ground, tanks are god. Rough terrain, force, and urban, they get outmaneuvered. But have helicopters then. Why don't they just have helicopters? I'll wait for your response. The duct-taped madman says, I wish I still had my old White Dwarf issues from early 4th edition. One had a Witch Hunter conversion that put a capture pod jet engine on top of Rhino. Okay, all right. Let me, okay, so I've admitted my deepest secret tonight. Let me admit a less dark, deep secret. Let me admit you more sort of the kind of, what would be the word for it? The compromises we must make in this world that I'm not proud of. Okay, so I've told you guys that I've been doing a ton of research recently. I've been doing like a bunch of work. I've been like trying to look into stuff. So in related to the video that will be coming out on Tuesday, I am afraid to say I had to subscribe to Warhammer Plus. I had to do it. I have subscribed to Warhammer Plus. I did it. I didn't really want to, but I needed access to the library of White Dwarfs, which is still to this day I think the best thing that is part of White Dwarf is the library that they give you for like all the White Dwarf magazines. I think that's awesome. So I did that. I subscribed to White Dwarf. And I basically, like, I didn't subscribe to White Dwarf. I subscribed to Warhammer Plus for the White Dwarf, and you'll see why. You'll understand why when you see my video on Tuesday. It'll be relevant. But what this meant is I have Warhammer Plus now, and I've got it like a year after it, and I don't know whether or not to do a review of it. But I don't know whether or not it could be summarized as like this. Okay, I don't know. Maybe they'll. Oh God. If Midwinter, Guy, if you're still here, I don't know whether or not I'm risking being demonetized the way you were. You who was the first to go. But I think that my my review of Warhammer Plus can be really quickly summed up. Let's see. I'm gonna log into it here. I'm gonna log into it. I just don't know whether or not so I gotta go on. Oh my God, they do not make it easy. Like, you're trying to, I have to click subscribe in order to log in. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. The pithy quote, the pithy joke is gone now, Games Workshop. You've made it really hard to get here. All right, now I'm in my account of my Warhammer account. Let's see, go to Warhammer TV. All right, so here is my review of Warhammer Plus, okay? This profile, this like thing, this setting, this platform of animation has been out for what, a year now? Like at least a year and a bit. At least a year and a bit. Here we go. Let's do this. All right, here it is. Here is Warhammer Plus. We're on it. We're on Warhammer Plus. This has been out for a year. Sorry, you can't actually quite see the library that's available because my chat is covering it up. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I've accidentally covered half of what's available on Warhammer Plus. This has been out for a year. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shows. Like, why would I subscribe to this for more than a month? What the hell's going on? Like, what the hell's going on? Like, okay, I get it. There's like a master class. Sure. There's like non-metallic metal. Like, I've never seen a tutorial for that. You can't see it because, once again, my chat is covering it up. There's a battle report. Lore masters. Sure. I watched this. No, not this. I didn't watch. I watched this because this is the only thing I've really watched on it. I watched the Hordes of Hashut versus Rotmire Creed, and it was good. Like, it was good. It was shot very much like, it reminded me of Come Dine With Me, if anyone's ever seen that. It was like a Channel 4 kind of like, there was like a talking head segments and stuff. People were like, oh boy, whenever he did the old big maneuver, I sure didn't see that coming. I'm gonna have to hit him back with my really good ability. Obviously, they were filming this after the battle, so it was all kind of acted a little bit. But, like, sure, I get it. It's, like, engaging. You know, it's kind of fun. And it made the game seem kind of fun. But, like, there's 3 battle reports here. Like, what the hell? Like, am I actually paying for this? Like, what's going on? And then, like, how many kill team battle reports are there? Oh, my God, wait, how many? Come on. Like, but kill team's been out a while. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 battle reports. What, like 1 a month? Like 1 battle report a month for kill team. Oh man, like that's not good though. That's really bad. Like how many? Okay, let's see Warhammer. Well, how many Warhammer? Because they gotta have a load of them. Like they should have like loads. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14. Okay, 14 are good. 14's an okay amount. I wasn't expecting so many, so that's good. I feel like there should probably be double that, but like, sure, you know, okay, I guess. I will say maybe like, I don't know, like this is kind of like what White Dwarf used to do, and this is more engaging, I would say, than White Dwarf, like the magazine. I used to never, like, I used to buy White Dwarf as like a kid, and I just didn't. I used to read the battle reports, but I never enjoyed it. Like, I just don't enjoy reading about battle reports. I do enjoy watching them more so. So that's a little bit better. But man, when I logged in for the first time, I wish I could have been filming it, and I saw this. I like logged in and was like, well, what's in Warhammer Plus? 'Cause I haven't really followed it since it like first launched. It was just like, oh. I logged in and I was just like, oh, really? Astartes isn't even like, this is a trailer. Like, that's a trailer. Army of a Space Marine. It's like a 3-minute like trailer. Like, it's not even a thing. Like, what the hell? Like, let's fly me over here. Woo! Look at me, I'm moving. Like, there's the Interrogator and Angels of Death. That's kind of a bit... Like, there's no value on this shit, like, really. The best part about it was, that I got access to all the White Dwarf. Oh, no, my UI! My UI, where'd it go? What happened? What happened? Oh my god. Oh, there we go. The best thing was that there was like no, that you can get access to all the White Dwarf magazines. I think that was kind of cool. There's also like some other stuff. There's like some older books and stuff, which is kind of neat. But yeah, I don't think I'll be subscribing for another month. I subscribed because I had to in order to get access to the White Dwarf, and I've got what I need. I've got the footage I need, and now I think I'm gonna be out of there like swimwear. To be honest. So I hope Games Workshop don't try to demonetize me for that, like they did with Guy. Didn't even show. I wonder how much I could stream of that because I feel like I could stream quite a bit actually without them being able to actually demonetize me. The problem is that YouTube and stuff, all those companies, they are on the side of like the kind of like copyright claim infringer person for sure. Amadello says, even the Imperial armor books in the vault don't have their rules. Oh god, they don't have their rules. Oh my god, hold on, let me double check this. They don't have their rules. I haven't looked at those. That's wild though. Like, what's the point? See, this is the thing that gets me. The White Dwarfs have all been vandalized by Games Workshop, they've removed all the books and like all the rules, like anything substantial in those books. So if I want to play 4th edition Warhammer, I can't like go back. I can't like go back and be like, oh, I have that one, by the way. I have like a bunch of these actually. I think I have the High Elves one as well. So I can't like go back and be like, oh, here's the Apocalypse rules for Warhammer 40k. I want to play some Apocalypse with my old minis and my old 4th edition rulebook, or 5th edition, I think it was now. I want to go play with my minis from back then. There's no rules in these books. Why? Why? Like, why? Well, I don't get it. Like, why would they do that? Like, why would they not want those rules? That is so lame. Like, that sucks so much. That is so lame. What the hell? Oh, it makes me really, really sad. Because it's just like vandalism, and it just takes away value for like no reason. Oh, god damn. And I wonder, do they have the rules of the most recent edition? I don't even know if I'm allowed to. Should I be allowed to show the magazine on stream? I don't even know if they would actually. This sucks. This sucks. Games Workshop. Damn. So yeah. I don't know why they don't show the rules. I think that's wild. That's absolutely wild to me. And I don't get it. I don't understand what the purpose it serves at all. The interrogator looks kind of spicy, not gonna lie, says Lord Beard. Like, I mean, I'll probably watch a few of them to see what they're like. But to be honest, like, I sort of, I don't know, like, I don't feel, like, particularly compelled to watch a bunch of them. She's floating, she's a witch. Sam for the Witch Hunter, says George Atkin. Yeah, right. And I don't even know, like, whether or not they're still bringing out any more, like, of these shows. Like, to be honest, like, I haven't seen anything. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any excitement around them at all. They're even bringing out any new stuff. Aaron says, what's your prediction on Warhammer the Old World? That's a very big question. I have like a ton of predictions for the old world. I have like a ton of ideas for the old world. Firstly, I think it's going to be too expensive. One of the big, really interesting questions for me, are they going to use the Cities of Sigmar range that's being refreshed? Or are they going to use that in the old world? I actually find that a very interesting question, and I don't know what the answer is yet. Well, maybe I do, but I'm going to probably do it. I'm saving it for a video, I think. W-Man says, the animation is like 80s Saturday morning cartoons, a massive step back. Oh, don't tell me that. Okay, now I'm really curious. Maybe I will review Warhammer Plus like a year on. John Allen says, rules are not included in anything on Warhammer Plus. I hate that. I hate that so much. The rules are like the most important part. Oh my god. Oh my god. The rules are like the most important part. Oh my god. Why? Oh, what are they thinking? Like, what are they thinking about this? Like, why? Like, it's so frustrating. It's like such an own goal. It's the most basic bare minimum stuff. Like, come on, Games Workshop. Just be an archive. That's it. Be an archive. Like, why can't they just be an archive? That's work. It's actual work to go through all those books, find where the rules are, and strip them out. That's more effort than just putting them up as they are. I don't get that. It's wild. For what purpose? I bet they say it's to stop confusion. I bet that's their excuse. They're like, oh, we don't want to confuse anybody. We don't want to confuse anybody. Like, somebody reading a White Dwarf from 2008 is going to be like, I wonder if these rules are relevant. Like, obviously not, dude. Like, obviously not. Games Workshop argued in court that their consumers are the most savvy, sophisticated consumers. Evidently not. Evidently they don't think that for real. Not when it comes to them making money. And it just feels to me like it's trying to disincentivize people from playing old rules. That's all I can think of. God, like it flabbergasts me. It flabbergasts me. I'm flabbergasted is what the word is. I'm flabbergasted. God. Angels of Death is great, says Ratoya Bloom. Fair enough. So false advertising on their part, you can report to the credit card company, says Lord Beard. No, I mean, like, I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think they promise that the rules exist explicitly, right? Like, it's just like they give you access to the vaults, whatever that entails, and you kind of have to infer what that means. But I think most people would infer that, like, it means that you get access to the rules, right? Am I wrong in that? Am I wrong in that? Are you on Instagram? Asks Aaron Shetter. I am on Instagram. It must be said I'm not super active on it. I recently started Instagram to be like a log of everything I paint. And then I just didn't do that. So I should probably do that more often. I'm on Instagram. I think I'm just Discourse Minis. On everything, I'm either Discourse Miniatures, Discourse Minis, or on Ko-fi, where you can give me donations if you want. I'm at, I am Discourse. Just Discourse on that. I'm late to the party. Flabbergasting, says Nicholas Bullard. Yeah, I'm flabbergasted. I've been flabbergasted. I've been the flabbers. Damn. Whew. Dinko says, I've got 10 years of White Dwarf to give away. Yeah, like, I've got a lot of White Dwarf, for sure, but it would be really nice to have the PDFs of them all. Which, I mean, like, admittedly, you can get if you just pirate them. But, like, I really wouldn't, like, I hate this. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about this very hot topic. I mean, this might be a video. You might be watching a video form as it happens. This is how I generally come up with videos. I just think about stuff, I guess. Okay, so this is like a big problem that companies generally have, right? They basically make their experience worse than pirating. And that sucks. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. It used to happen with companies, like TTRPG companies, refusing to sell, like, PDFs of stuff. Or selling PDFs for, like, very expensively, or, like, as premium items. People then just went to pirating. Happened with video games, with, like, the constant, always-on DRM, which made the experience of playing video games worse than if you were just to pirate the game and download it illicitly. And it's the same with this. Like, with White Dwarf, I would be better off downloading White Dwarf from a third-party website completely instead of giving Games Workshop money in order to get access to the official thing, because it's not a complete product. It's not the complete magazine. So why, as a consumer, should I pay money for a worse service? Like, why does that make sense? Right? People might say things like, oh, Games Workshop are in the right to do it, but, like, who cares? Like, why would it make sense for me as the consumer to pay money for this experience that's worse? Like, I think that they should have to compete for, like, my time and attention and my money. You know what I mean? Like, we should, like, this is the sort of stuff, the service should be better. And for some reason, this feels like it's like an ideological thing for Games Workshop. Like, they have decided, they've made a policy of it. They have decided to take out the rules. And that's so foolish to me. It's so foolish. And if I ever want to use, like, White Dwarf for the longest time was, like, the conduit for getting special rules and stuff. And to take that out, the one thing that Warhammer Plus would have done really well was serve as a vault, as a sort of retention, as a memory of all the little rules and all the special stuff that was in White Dwarf. So to take that away is massively disappointing and very sad. Very sad. They don't want you playing anything but the current edition, says One Hope of the Doomed. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you are right, to be honest. Well, thank you, everybody. I think on this bombshell, I think we might be going. We might be leaving it for tonight. I have been streaming now for 3.5 hours. Oh, Jesus. Y'all get me. I was having a lot of fun. If you want my money, earn it, or have something I want, says Dingo. Exactly, Dingo. I totally agree with you. And for the longest time, I just feel like Games Workshop have gotten away with kind of producing the minimum amount and just skating along, you know? And it's kind of what their IP empowers them to do in a lot of ways. But I don't know. Maybe we're gonna be seeing a different time. We are entering a sort of pretty perilous time. So we'll see what Games Workshop has up their sleeve. I suspect it is very anti-consumer practices, to be honest. Yeah. So, but we shall see, and I will be there to document it. So if you are interested in that, please do subscribe. Like I said before, this, by the way, this was like the last. I do these every 2 weeks. I live stream every 2 weeks, like every other Sunday. I'm not allowed to call it the every other Sunday show though, because it was trademarked by somebody else. And I also stream on twitch.tv/Discourse Games. I will next be streaming on Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time, because I will be teaching Midgeman how to play Arkham Horror, the LCG, which is a really awesome card game. It's a horror game. It spooks, it scares. There's music. It'll be fun. Come hang out and check out the game. I'll be teaching how to play it, so if you've never played it before, this will be a pretty good experience for you. You'll be able to learn how to play. We're going through the tutorial scenario, and we're going to fight, dare I say, some ghosts and ghouls. And I will have another video out on Tuesday as well. Do look out for that, and join my Discord if you want to hang out. And of course, as always, if you do like the content here, super chats are great. But also there's my Patreon at patreon.com/discourse miniatures. That's the only reason why I'm able to do this full time now. That's why I'm able to dedicate all this time to the channel. I'm able to like actually do a bunch of research and stuff on this next video because I'm now full time. And so thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for all the donators. Thank you for all the new members. Welcome to the Discourse airs. And thank you all for watching. And I shall catch you all next time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Blessed Sam Flint says the every other Sunday show. That could be a good name, actually. I might steal that. I might do that. Great stream. Thanks for the company in my hobby time. Not at all, Wayne. I hope that you have enjoyed yourself. I hope that the hobbying is going well. And I shall catch you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good one. Have a lovely end to your weekend. I'll see ya. Bye-bye.